Across the UK, online and on DAB.
It's a new frontier in broadcasting. The Two Mics on Talk Radio.
We'll get you talking.
I'm Mike Graham, he's Mike Parry. You're listening to the Two Mics on Talk Radio. The week continues to throw out more and more surprises. It's a brave new world out there this morning. Prime Minister Theresa May, have you got used to hearing that yet? Has set out her stall and brought in a load of Brexiteers to form the new government. Chief among them, of course, is Boris Johnson, the bloke who started it all just 3 weeks ago. Now the blonde-haired buffoon will be charged with talking to lots of foreigners and explaining his behaviour as he gallivants around the world. We'll be celebrating Bill Wyman's 80th birthday as well, and Porky will be telling us about why stress is so very, very good for you. 0844 499 1000 is the number to call us on. You're listening to the Two Mics with me, Mike Graham, and Mike Parry on Talk Radio.
Across the UK, online and on DAB.
The Two Mics on Talk Radio. We'll get you talking.
It's time to say a very, very good morning to Mr. Mike Porky Parry in this brave new world with a brave new Prime Minister and a brave new Foreign Secretary.
It certainly is, Mike, and what an exciting week. Good morning to you, by the way. What a fine morning it is out there.
Thank you. Can I just apologise on the record for throwing coffee over you earlier? I didn't mean to.
It's a good job you got in there, because I was about to lacerate you for it. You
lacerate
know what I mean?
me? You can lacerate your own forehead.
In one of my
forehead, as you call it.
In one of my designer shirts this morning, and what are you doing? Stumbling around there, a cup of coffee in one hand.
I was holding the door for you.
No, you can't hold the door and a cup of coffee and a cigarette in the other hand.
That was the problem.
So you bungled the whole thing, and whoosh, the coffee went all over me.
You know that thing where you try and juggle a cup?
Yeah.
I mean, it did have a lid on it, fortunately, otherwise you'd have been a lot worse.
I know.
It only sort of sneaked out the top, the little slit bit.
I know, but I mean...
So I apologise anyway.
Yeah, OK, well, it's a good job you've done, actually, because I was going to take you to task on it, but as you've apologised, I forgive you.
Thank you very much indeed.
Isn't it exciting?
Does it feel different? Does it feel different when you came in this morning? Does it feel as though we've got a new era upon us?
No, not really, because it's been unfolding as a new era since the moment we started this show on Monday morning.
Well, that's true,
to be perfectly honest.
I do get the sense that, I don't know if you share this, that there's a bit of the uncertainty is gone. You know, we now know who's in charge. We've got a new team.
I feel good about the political setup, right? Yeah. And I feel good about it because I was desperately worried that we were going to go all the way through to mid-September with two unstable...
with nobody really running the shop.
Two unstable government positions. Yeah. A leader of the opposition who was at war with his own party.
Well, they're still in all kinds of trouble.
Well, I thought David Cameron did it very well yesterday. You know, we've had the resignation, the coronation, and you lot haven't sorted out the rules, you know. But, I mean, it's bad to have an ineffective opposition because government then runs amok. But it's even worse to have an ineffective opposition when you've got a government in chaos. So,
well, I think that's part of the problem, isn't it? Yeah. Because during all this week, as it's been unfolding, as you say, instead of having sort of, proper criticism and proper analysis coming from the Labour benches, we've had nothing at all. Apart from them arguing with each other, as you say, about who should be allowed on the ballot paper.
Exactly. And I have to say that most of the time I find politics intensely boring.
It can be.
In fact,
but not this week, though.
No. That's what I was about to say to you. I think of all those years when you and I were newspaper executives, and each morning we'd have to troll into conference at 10 o'clock and tell the editor what the big stories of the day were. And inevitably it was something to do with Mrs Thatcher or Tony Blair.
And also the political
like
editor would rock up with a whole bunch of really boring stories.
Much
all
more
of
boring.
Which would be one would be more boring than the last.
Well, usually what would happen is, because this is the way newspaper politics work, you'd give your version of events to the editor, and then the political editor would rock up, as you rightly say, and then actually pull everything that you've said to pieces and insert a new version of events.
Exactly.
Trying to make you feel
And quite often they
small.
would deliberately hold back the one salient fact that you didn't have.
Exactly.
In order to make you look an idiot.
Exactly, and all that kind of stuff, because they thought they were experts.
Although I imagine it wasn't that difficult to make you look an idiot, politically speaking.
I was so on top of the game politically.
Really?
Because, and do you know why? I used to go out lunching and munching with the government press officers on a regular basis.
Yeah, but the trouble was the people who were above you were not talking to the government press officers, they were talking to the government ministers.
Yeah, they were.
Who didn't always tell their press officers everything they knew.
Yeah, but the press officers didn't always tell the ministers everything they should know.
That's very possibly true. But I mean, the problem within working within a newspaper, to bore everybody for a second, is that everybody's got their own political agenda. Because some of them are trying to get themselves into politics, and we've seen so many people like Alistair Campbell, Tom Baldwin, all these people who've become spin doctors, and actually half of them, while they're working for newspapers, are actually trying to get themselves a career in politics.
I can tell you, certainly at the Express, one of the people who worked for me was Fiona Miller, who went on to become partner in life to Alistair Campbell. I think they've got 3 children.
Don't suggest that they're married.
I won't suggest they're married, because they're not married. No. But I mean, it was obvious from the start. Fiona was always angling for a job in the Commons, and then she got a job. She's a very good reporter, by the way. And she ended up as Sherry Blair's spin doctor.
That's right.
Or certainly assistant, or something like that.
Special advisor, I think.
Special advisor. But
correct term.
I tell you what, when I went to PA, it was quite amazing, actually, because PA is a very neutral organisation.
That's Press Association.
The
for
Press
people who are not
Association.
sure. It's a news agency, basically.
It's the biggest national news agency in the world, and I was the Supremo.
I don't
there.
think it's bigger than the Associated Press.
Well, that's an international news agency, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
So it's the biggest national, identified to one country internally in the world. So, and you have to remain politically completely neutral. So anyway, the editor-in-chief there says to me, look, we need a new political editor. He said, I've got somebody lined up. I said, oh, yeah, who is this person? He said, recommended to very highly by my friends in the Commons.
Oh, yeah.
So I go and meet this guy. And he had actually applied to be a Labour MP some 5 or 6 years before.
Right.
And I said, doesn't that indicate that you have political views? No, not at all. He said, to be honest, I just wanted to be an MP. I thought it was an opportunity and all that. I said, so where do you see this? Oh, right down the middle. Right. So anyway, we take this guy on, right? He then... there was 7 or 8 political reporters. Over the next 18 months, he sacked every one of them, replaced them with somebody who was known to him.
Right.
When the election...
Were they all of one particular persuasion?
Well, I was about to say to you, on the election night in 97, when Blair got in, right...
Yeah.
And we hadn't been paying enough attention to the political stories we've been putting out, because when we looked back on them, it turned out to be a huge propaganda machine.
Why hadn't you been paying attention? You're supposed to be the editor of the thing.
I know.
But
But
you just let it all go out without looking at it.
No, whenever,
you're supposed to read it first.
Whenever I looked at a story and said, and I called Phil in, just his first name, but
Phil.
I won't tell you his first name.
So Phil used to work for the Press Association in a political capacity. You don't have to give his second name away.
No, I have to give his second name away.
Well, people should be able to work that one out.
I said, this story looks loaded to me. He said, what do you mean? And I said, well, it looks to me like we're back in sort of the Labour point of view. No, not at all. He says they didn't want this story to put out. I've told them they can go and take a running jump. I'm publishing and all this kind of stuff. So he talked me around.
Your political naivety at times is absolutely extraordinary.
Anyway, on election night, right? They were all back in the newsroom because they'd all been out on the on the hustings all the way through the
the lash.
No, they're all on the hustings all the way through the campaign. But on the day of voting, of course, you don't go out on the hustings because nothing happens except voting. So they're all in there, and as the results were coming through, and I remember one, I think it was Coventry East or something, which was a swing.
You started cheering.
No, it was a swing constituency, and Labour had to win this to assure victory. Right. As it came in, Labour had won. Hey! Woo! Woo! And they're all jumping up and down and punching the air and all, and I couldn't believe it. Right. And then we had to start having strange conversations about where we're all going tomorrow, And Phil said, no. He was a Geordie boy.
Oh, so Phil's a Geordie.
Yeah. He said,
we don't know his second name, but he was the political editor of Press Association.
No, he said, no. I don't want any of them out of London tomorrow. And I said, why not, Phil? He says, well, after all their hard work, I want them to be there at Downing Street when Blair rides in on his bus.
Right.
I said, what are you on about? It's not a football. Oh, right, yeah, sorry.
So he knew all about that.
Oh, his neutrality had completely gone. Anyway,
well, you see this guy, Owen Smith, who's running against Jeremy Corbyn.
Yeah.
He's a former BBC producer.
Yes, I know.
MP for Pontypridd.
Yeah, a lot of them are. Just to finish the story with Geordie Phil.
Well, how long is this story?
About a month after the election, he suddenly came to me and said, I had an opportunity. Oh, what is it? Head of Press, Labour Party HQ. Oh, right, okay. But you didn't have any affiliation to them when you came to the PA.
Did you go and work for Alistair Campbell then?
No, it was at Labour rather than at government. You see what I mean? He went to Labour Party HQ.
Yeah, but they all worked for Alistair Campbell.
Well, I suppose so, but he didn't work for him directly.
Well, thanks for not giving away his full name anyway, because I'm sure nobody will be able to identify him. We've got loads to talk about. You're going to tell us why stress is very good for you.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking to one of our colleagues from downstairs, Tim Cocker from Virgin Radio, because he's going to tell us how often we're going to be seeing 80th birthday celebrations for people like Bill Wyman, who's having one this week, rather this year, I should say. And, of course, we want to hear from you as well.
The 21st century dream team of dialogue, debate and discourse. The Two Mics on Talk Radio. We'll get you talking.
We are the Two Mics. This is, of course, Talk Radio. We're here all the way through until Friday afternoon. Well, not completely non-stop, but we're doing another show tomorrow, obviously, as it is the end of the week. We're going to keep an eye on the golf, actually, while it's on as well, because it looks like a very nice day up there in Troon. Now, Becky, our good friend and correspondent down in New Zealand, has sent me a very strange picture from the App Store, where she says the App Store have recommended Goat Simulator. You wander around as a goat causing havoc. It would be a great game for Porky.
Oh, come
Well,
off
after you played Pokemon Go yesterday, suddenly here's a new game for you.
Yes.
Basically, you wander around the world as a goat and just sort of bump into things.
Yeah, well,
what's wrong with that?
Oh, it's just ridiculous and pathetic.
By
and
the way,
something I wouldn't even consider.
Talking of games, we have to work out what the Porky quiz is going to be on, because that'll be tomorrow.
I thought we'd already decided it was on the Cameron Legacy.
We haven't spoken about it on the air.
Okay,
right?
Should we make it the Cameron Legacy?
You want to make it the Cameron Legacy?
The Cameron Legacy,
10 questions on the Cameron Legacy.
10 questions on the Cameron Legacy. Or David Cameron, whatever you want. Cameron and his legacy, okay?
Okay.
That's fair enough. That's good.
I mean, it's kind of specific, that. I mean, how can you make a question about a legacy? I mean, surely it should be just David Cameron, shouldn't it?
David Cameron. Yeah. David Cameron will be fine. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it's one and the same thing. The reason...
I should point out that last week, for those of you who didn't hear the show, Porky did a quiz on the two presidents known as Bush.
Yes.
Right? It was Herbert Walker Bush and G.W.
Yes.
Bush.
Yes.
And you got 1.25 points out of 10.
I know that's quite true.
Yeah, it was a very good performance. Not a very good performance at all.
Listen, you get down to the beach a lot with your children.
I do.
Now,
well, I mean, that's on account of living on the coast.
Yes, that's right, yeah. Do you ever have problems with seagulls?
All the time in Hastings. Yeah, absolutely horrendous.
Right.
The seagull problem down there is ridiculous.
There's a horrendous story about a little girl in St Ives who was just sitting on the harbour wall.
Oh, yeah, she was knocked off the wall.
Knocked off the wall.
Yeah, I heard about that, yeah.
Flown by air ambulance to... hospital with spinal injuries, and I mean, look, we've got to start doing things about this.
Well, the problem with the seagull problem is that they are a protected species. You can't do. When I first moved down there, the first house that I lived in was in a street where basically the seagulls had started to nest,
right?
And they would nest on the roofs, and basically they would make noise all night. It was a horrendous situation. Whenever the dustbin men came around, they would dive bomb the dustbin men. There was rubbish all over the streets, and when you went to the council and said, "Can we do something about this? Can you get rid of these seagulls?"
Yeah, I know.
They can't do a thing, and particularly with the nests, you're not allowed to do anything with them at all.
Well, we've got to change the law, because I got a report about seagulls a couple of weeks ago, and I was going to sort of bring it in. We were going to talk about it, and I thought it's not really that interesting. But if they're causing horrendous injuries,
no, they are. I mean,
because
also
girls,
they're not just. I think
actually,
she was about
18-year-old.
I think she was 15 or 16.
18, yeah.
But the point is, it's not just that they're a menace and a pest in seaside resorts. They've now started coming inland.
Yeah.
I mean, like in Glasgow, for example, they're all over the place.
I know.
And then that's not by the sea.
And not only that, you're absolutely right. They are coming inland, but they literally they have some sort of thing in their brain where they target fast food outlets.
Yeah, of course they do. Yeah.
People sitting outside.
Well,
in
in
the
Glasgow,
summer.
somebody had their kebab actually literally taken off them, taken out of their hands.
That's right.
The bird flew down, took the kebab, and flew off with it.
Experts have concluded that hordes of squawking seagulls descend on certain restaurants on bars at night. They're quite clever, because they know that there will be discarded food lying around on the floor before it gets cleaned up.
Did I ever tell you the story of when I was in Lyme Regis and a seagull took my sunglasses?
Yes, you told me. Yes.
I told you that story.
Horrendous. Could have pecked your face.
Actually mugged me for my sunglasses. I was wearing sunglasses at the time.
Did you get them back?
No, flew off with them.
Flew off with them?
It flew off with my sunglasses.
Shocking. Smashed
into the side of my head.
Yeah.
Right. By the time I'd sort of come to and realised what had happened, I looked around for my sunglasses. They were gone.
Absolutely gone.
I'd taken them. I decided that the seagull was from some kind of gang of seagulls that was somehow taking shiny things away and putting them somewhere up a cliff.
Listen to this. There's gangs of them around, because the study that I was sent actually had.
Who sent you this study?
One of my scientific contacts.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
And marvellous.
And they went and had a look at the situation in Bath, where, of course, you studied for a while before you got thrown out of university.
I didn't get thrown out of university, actually.
Well, you didn't complete your course,
I didn't finish my degree, no.
And guess what they found?
Did you finish your course?
No, I went into journalism instead, and I proved to be very successful.
Is that right?
Very successful.
Very successful.
Now then,
is that what you would call it?
Yes, I would. Yeah. Now in a nesting.
You didn't go to university though, did you?
And you don't need university these days. Too many people go to university. Come out with shockingly.
Trent Polytechnic, right?
I went to the University of the Trent.
No, Trent Poly. You went to.
If you went
it was called Trent Polytechnic when you went there.
I will take you to the building that was my alma mater, where I studied.
Yeah.
And there's a huge shiny sign at the front which says the University of the Trent.
But it did not become the University of the Trent until after you left it.
I'm not here for a history lesson.
Therefore, you can't call it that as a place that you went to.
Right, now this study in Bath, right? Let's go into this study in Bath.
Yeah, go on.
They found the contents of seagulls' nests included, in one case, 40 bones.
Yeah. Bones?
Yeah, 40 bones.
Yeah. Like Kentucky Fried Chicken type bones.
Yes, that's right, yeah. Junk food containers.
Right.
Plastic forks.
Did they find any sunglasses?
No, they didn't, unfortunately. Plastic forks. spoons, rubber bands, and clumps of human hair.
Really? Now, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
And also, the thing about the seagulls now is that they're absolutely massive because they've got so much food, right?
That's right.
I mean, if you stand next to one down in sort of the Sussex coast,
that's right.
They are at least a minimum of 18 inches tall, which is quite big.
Do you know what? They must be getting bigger because their diet is increasing. Because it says here.
I've just said that.
Yes, I know. I'm going to qualify that with a fact.
You don't need to bring facts into it when
is,
I'm already an expert on it.
The fact is that one of the professors who put this project together, Dr. Chris Pawson, okay?
Pawson,
Pawson.
Where's he from?
University of the West of England, which is in Bath.
Another Polly.
Yeah. And he says...
I think it's Bristol, actually.
He says, we've actually got video evidence of adult seagulls feeding their young entire chicken breasts.
Really?
From, takeaway chicken
stores.
They're
very inventive. They're very sly, very cunning. I mean, I actually hit one once in Glasgow in a car. And I'll just tell you how sort of how strong they are. I was driving along and I could see this seagull standing in the middle of the road, and I just thought, well, normally speaking, the seagull's going to fly away.
Yes.
Because as you get closer and closer, that's what's going to happen.
Well,
I was slightly worried that he might leave it too late and damage the car.
Right.
But instead of which, he didn't move at all.
Right.
And I could hear a sort of a clunk like that as I kind of ran over his head. Right.
Oh, he hit the grill.
Well, he hit the underside of the car, I think.
And it never moved?
Well, the seagull never moved. And as I went past, I thought, well, I better stop and see what's going on. And as I went past, I looked in the rearview mirror.
Yes.
And the seagull was literally just sort of shaking his head. And then he flew off. And he was fine. So I hit him with a car about 30 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Didn't do him any damage at all.
Didn't do him any damage at all.
It was Glasgow, mind you.
He's in Glasgow. I was going to say it wasn't down on the south coast near you. Because
I just told you it was in Glasgow.
Yeah, okay.
You're not listening, are you?
I am. The nearest town to you is Bastille, isn't it?
Bastille, yes.
You won't believe it, but once again, they're having another row about where Harold actually got the arrow in the eye.
It's an ongoing thing because they've been doing this ever since, that show that they do, Time Tunnel. Not Time Tunnel, what's it called?
No.
The show that they do about...
the Blackadder guy goes and digs up fields.
That's right, yeah.
Time Detective?
Time Detective,
is it? Something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, he was the one that first decided to look into the idea that where they think he was hit by the arrow actually was wrong. And they think now it's a roundabout right in the middle of the town, which is slightly closer. And they also think that, funnily enough, where I live is more likely to have been the battlefield rather than the other side of this roundabout, which is about half a mile away.
But aren't they a bit reluctant to change the location because they've got rather a nice abbey and a sort of layout of the battlefield down there, haven't they?
Well, of course, the abbey's been there for since 1066.
Well, exactly, yeah.
Because they built the abbey on the site where he supposedly fell.
That's right, yeah.
And then on the other side, they've got this whole kind of what you might call kind of national park type thing going on. So they could. I mean, they couldn't move it all because they'd have to move the whole town.
And do you take your children there and instruct them in the?
They have been there several times. Yeah.
The historical, yeah.
Yeah. In fact, they have a reenactment every year.
Oh, right, okay.
Which I take them to.
Yeah, you've been to that recently.
Well, when it was last October, actually.
Oh, was it? I thought it was much more recently that you went to some reenactment or something.
Well, no, they do the reenactment on the date of the battle, plonker.
No, you've been to something recently. I don't know what it was, but they're all kids were running around in uniforms and things.
Kids running around in uniforms?
Well, in battle gear and all that.
Oh,
that
really?
was very recently, yeah. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, but that wasn't anything specific.
Do you know I like talking about 1066?
Why?
It was the first ever school play in which I starred.
Did you star as what?
1066 and all that.
1066 and all that, yeah, but what did you star as?
One of the leading characters.
Which one?
I can't remember.
You can't remember?
No, but it was a leading character.
Well, I mean, there's an awful lot of...
I was probably William the Conqueror.
No, I don't think you would have been. You're too small. One of the things about...
Well, everybody's small when they're 8.
No, but some are smaller than others.
No, I don't think so.
Proven by the way that you grew up, because you're still smaller than most people. But
think so.
The thing about the whole Bayeux Tapestry, which you famously, of course, once used to think was in Bordeaux...
Yeah, I did, actually,
is that, that was commissioned by one of the sort of Norman knights,
right,
who was a very vain man, a little bit like yourself. So he basically put himself at the centre of all of this stuff that was going on.
I see.
And they don't think that actually the Bayeux Tapestry, in its way, is particularly accurate. And it may not be actually accurate that Harold got hit in the eye anyway.
That's right, absolutely.
That might not have happened.
But that's a if he was a journalist in those days, he'd have been a good man for ideas, because that was a good way to highlight...
What, the Bayeux Tapestry?
Yeah, Bayeux Tapestry say, it's got a depiction of Harold copping for an arrow in the eye, you know what I mean?
Well, it's true.
And that would have...
Why are we talking about 1066? I mean, we've got a new Prime Minister, right?
Yeah.
We've got the openers on up in Troon.
Sure.
We've got so many big stories to talk about.
Did you see Boris getting from Downing Street to the Foreign Office last night? It was unbelievable.
Yeah, but I mean, you've been critical of that. I mean, how else are you supposed to get there? You can't just wander off there, can he?
You can't.
Or get on a zip wire or something.
No, you can. You can come out of Downing Street. You can wander through a tunnel opposite.
Yes,
and
I know
right
all
in front
that.
of you is the Foreign Office.
No, I know all that, but he didn't want to do that in front of all the cameras. He obviously
not?
had to because he's
Man
now
of
a
the
minister.
people?
No, he's a minister of state. He's not a man of the people.
Instead of which
aside from the concerns about security, the whole point about being the foreign minister, the foreign secretary, I should say, is that you arrive in a chauffeur-driven car.
The Foreign Office is said to be the most lavish and elaborate
I've been in there.
office of state.
I've been in there.
What were you in there for?
I was invited in there by a guy who later became the ambassador to Washington. Who was his name is Nigel Scheinwald. He may still be the ambassador to Washington.
Sir Nigel Scheinwald.
Well, you won't remember him because it was after your time.
I see. Because when I was there, the ambassador was.
Yeah, but you were there about 40 years ago.
No. He's a good mate of mine.
Yeah, what was his name?
Sir David.
Sir David what?
Something.
Sir David something.
His second.
You're still in touch with him then?
No, hang on. His second name began with D as well.
Really?
And I remember when I announced I was leaving and had come to this country, he told my sister and brother-in-law who'd come over to visit Washington before I left.
Well, you didn't drag your family up to meet him, did you?
Yeah, we were
How
all
embarrassing!
That's
embarrassing.
No, it was the ambassador's residence.
You don't take your family to a work contact place.
No, it was.
That's shocking.
No, he threw a little leaving party for me.
For you?
Yes, for me.
Oh, this is on account of all the secrets you passed him, right?
Well,
From inside the paper. Yeah, you've admitted that in the past.
I'm not sure
You've
about
admitted that in the past, that stuff that didn't go into paper, you used to feed him with, right? And
anyway,
he used to ply you with wine to get information. I mean, everybody knows that it doesn't take much to get information out of you. A couple of glasses of Pinot and you're anybody's.
He took my sister in the corner and said, I just want to say, Adrienne, that...
What's your sister's name?
Adrienne.
Okay.
Michael repairing back to England, jolly good for England, but we'll miss him dreadfully here. So there you see. I was such a.
When was the last time you spoke to this guy?
Such a vital. He's dead. Such a vital cog in the diplomatic scene.
Yeah, right.
You see what I mean?
What an absolutely horrendous way to operate. You really are shameless.
What do you mean?
Shameless.
No, I did it for my country.
Well, I've got a far more interesting story to tell you about the Foreign Office than that, which I should tell you coming up very shortly. But soon we're going to be talking to Tim Cocker as well from Virgin Radio. We'll find out when all this celebration of old rock stars is going to end.
Across the UK, online and on DAB.
The Two Mics on Talk Radio. We'll get you talking.
Good morning, we are the Two Mics. You see, the third mic, Michael Gove, has just been given his marching orders. Hardly surprising, really, considering after his appalling performance, a man who was so self-important that he thought he could be the next Prime Minister.
Where do you think this
He got
puts,
4 votes, I think, even in his own party.
That's right. Where do you think this puts his wife now, Sarah Sands?
Well, not Sarah Sands.
Sarah Vine.
Sarah Vine.
Sorry, Sarah
well, if
Sands
I was him, I'd get shot of her, to be honest, because she was the one that dropped him right in it with that ridiculous email saying, whatever you do, don't upset Rupert or Paul Dacre.
The poor woman thought she was going to be First Lady, literally. She was going to walk into conference one morning at the Daily Mail where she works, and she was going to actually be more important than her legendary editor, Paul Dacre.
And she fancied herself as Lady Macbeth.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It was more like Lady Macduff, I think, after all that. Anyway, we'll talk some more about politics later because a very important man has just walked in. Exactly. Tim Cocker, one of our colleagues at Virgin Radio.
Great to see you,
Very
Tim.
good morning to you.
Oh, lovely to be here. And can I just say, I love listening to it. Whilst the world's talking about Michael Gove and you will, I liked hearing about pigeons, the Bayeux Tapestry.
Good man.
It's just what I love.
That's good man.
All human life is here.
Yes.
Now, the reason we've got you in is because of your expertise in the music business, right? Because my colleague, Mr. Parry here, is always likes to celebrate anybody who's older than him, which is becoming a diminishing number of people. But Bill Wyman, apparently, has just announced that he's having a concert to celebrate his 80th birthday, which is coming up a little bit later on this year. And we were just thinking, how much more of this is there going to be?
Yeah.
How long do we have to expect to see 90th birthdays, 100th birthdays, Black Sabbath are playing?
Tim,
what's going on?
You're far too young to remember the heyday of the 60s and all that. But what was the famous quote from Daltrey? I hope I get old. I hope I die before I get old.
That wasn't his quote.
Who was it?
Pete Townsend. Wrote
Pete Townsend. I hope I die before I get old. And people like Mick Jagger literally giving interviews, in the 70s, saying you won't get me on the stage when I'm 40.
And also, was it a Mott the Hoople song that David Bowie wrote, which was even that was about 25. Like, who wants to be alive when you're 25? 25 was thought of as past it back then.
Exactly. So what I'm saying is,
that was before Jagger worked out he could make £1 million a night.
Yeah. What I'm saying is, would you
want to walk away from?
Would you ever spin a record by a man who was 81 years of age?
Sorry, just ask that question again.
Yeah, would you ever spin a record? It's an expression that DJs use.
Have you been down to the studios down
Yes, I know you don't spin them these days, but Fleet Street's called Fleet Street because that's where we grew up, OK? They're not there anymore.
Sorry, he's trapped in the 70s. It's almost like when he said the time tunnel earlier. But, I mean, that's
supposing
Supposing
Bill Wyman celebrates his 80th birthday on the 24th of October this year by releasing a new record, are you going to have a personal protest against age-induced rock?
I'd like to think that I would do it on merit of the music, and I think this is possibly part of what's got us here. Actually, is that record companies now are playing it very safe, and we've got this sort of homogenised bunch of vacuous pop stars occupying a lot of the music landscape at the minute. I mean, there's some great pop tunes in there as well, but there's not the risks taken on these interesting characters and rock and roll stars, which is why I think there's still that demand and appetite for these characters that you see. And, Rolling Stones that you mentioned, one of the biggest earning, I think they were in the top 10 in the Forbes 100 list in terms of musicians.
But they weren't making as much money as One Direction, funnily enough.
No, they weren't.
No, they weren't.
£41 million last year the Stones made,
okay? But One Direction would have made theirs from endorsements and selling trainers, whereas Rolling Stones made theirs from touring.
Yeah. Sure.
And I think that's probably tells you a lot about where we're at.
That's true, isn't it? Because, just looking at some of the bands that are coming up, you've got Bad Company, Richie Sambora. Yeah. You've got the Black Sabbath, as I said. Yeah. Bill Wyman's gala is going to include people like Mark Knopfler and Bob Geldof and Mick Hucknall. And it's like you say, a lot of the music that even I still listen to now, which is relatively sort of new. So like Calvin Harris. Why would you go and see Calvin Harris? Because he doesn't really do anything, does he? He sits there with a laptop.
Yeah. My view on this one is that in the 60s and the 70s, there was an explosion of music after the Second World War, right? And I think
Second World War was in the 40s.
Yes, I know, but the post-war baby boomers got to the age of about 20 in the early 60s, through the 60s, through the 70s. What I think happened is, and musical experts have endorsed this view of mine, okay, is that they got through, I'll tell you in a minute, they got through every combination of chords, of strings, of combination of musical notes, of different ways of playing instruments that you could possibly do.
You enjoying this, Tim?
Up to about, yes, of course he is.
I'm making notes, Mike. I'm making notes.
Yeah. Keep it up.
And since 1985...
He invites people in as guests and then doesn't let them talk.
Yeah, and then since 1985, we've not been able to
I'm going to go have a cigarette in a minute.
Any original music. What's your view on that one?
Well, hold on. There was, you had the sort of punk music explosion. You had the
punk was trash.
You had the
that was trash.
You had the
but it was very successful.
There's probably a music genre called trash somewhere.
Is, yeah.
But there was hip hop and rap, which came out of New York.
Hip hop's for brainless nerds.
But it's also incredibly successful.
Well, I don't care whether it's successful.
Can you name a hip hop artist, for example?
No, I've never listened to one. I don't want to.
You never heard of?
I don't want to.
You never heard of Jay-Z, or you never heard of 50 Cent?
Who?
Jay-Z.
50 Cent? No, I haven't. No. Listen,
what about Beyonce? Have you heard of Beyonce?
Yeah, I've heard of Beyonce, and I've listened to one or two of her records.
All right.
The last
Do you like them?
What?
Do you like them?
I'm indifferent to it. I'm indifferent to it all. The last great group...
why don't you tell Tim your favourite band?
Tim, the last great group was Oasis, right? There hasn't been a group since them. And before Oasis, the last great group was, in fact, Queen, right? And before them, it was the Beatles and Bowie and the Rolling Stones.
He says it with such certainty, doesn't he?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, so I think... Well, look at some of the biggest selling acts on earth. You're going to turn your nose up at it. I think there's a lot of snobbery thrown in the way of bands like Mumford & Sons and Coldplay, which have a place, and they've
Coldplay's show at Glastonbury was incredible.
It was incredible.
Absolutely incredible.
Yeah, but you kind of feel you've heard those records before.
What?
Whereas when you heard a new Queen disc, when you heard a new
What are you talking about?
Beatles, well, Coldplay to me sound like average music.
Can you name one Coldplay song?
No.
I can hear what you're saying. Arctic Monkeys as well, I think, will be looked upon. I think
Arctic Monkeys very good,
Alex Turner is going to be kind of the sort of Mick Jagger of his day. 40 years' time, he'll probably still be playing.
They've made an awful lot of money as well, more than you would have thought.
Yeah.
Who's that?
Arctic Monkeys.
Arctic Monkeys, yeah. Did one of their guys disappear and never come back?
No, that was the Manic Street Preachers.
Manic Street
Preachers. Oh, right, yeah.
Do you know what I think?
It's very easy to confuse the two.
It is. Do you know what I think is kind of important,
One of them's from Wales and one of them isn't.
What I will say is, I saw the Rolling Stones at a festival probably about 8 years ago,
Bad luck.
and I thought, oh wow, I'm ticking this one off.
They're bad live, though, aren't they?
Well, it's not so much that. It's just I got the sense as I was watching them, I'm not watching the Rolling Stones.
No,
I'm kind of...
It's like a tribute act.
Yeah, it did feel like that. And I think context is important. So I get what you're saying about age. I think seeing bands in the context when they're most relevant and when those records are new and fresh is an important part of it.
And also, I think if you want to go and see, say, Bill Wyman having an 80th sort of bash, you want to go to some little club somewhere in the West End and maybe watch him with a few of his mates jamming away on the side. You don't actually want to go to the O2, which is where it's going to be on.
It is,
which is a great venue, but it's not very sort of intimate, is it?
No, it's not.
What about experience, though? I mean,
I haven't heard of them.
No, neither me.
Johnny Cash, a lot of people would argue his best work was that covers album that he did just before he died.
Yeah.
Yes.
You like Johnny Cash?
No. Oh, well, no. I liked Ring of Fire.
Ring of Fire.
Yeah, Ring of Fire. No, honestly, that's not a double entendre or whatever. I like Ring of Fire, and I liked A Boy Called Sue.
A Boy Called Sue,
because that was a great record.
Yeah.
After that, forget it. Johnny Cash was just.
You
a
still haven't
stumbling
told Tim
cowboy.
what you mostly listen to when you're at home.
I listen to the Beatles
No,
all
you
the
don't.
time.
No,
I do.
you don't. Tell me what you really listen to.
What?
ABBA.
Well, I like ABBA as well, but loads of people like ABBA.
Great pop tunes.
Thank you. ABBA's been recognised now as one of the great bands of all time, haven't they?
Well, their music's very listenable.
Exactly.
But it's hardly cutting edge, music business stuff, is it?
Exactly. What I was going to say was, Tim, we're used now to seeing a 72-year-old McCartney on stage at the O2. I've actually seen him brilliant because he was one of the Beatles. We used to
When did
seeing
you see McCartney?
a 74-year-old Mick Jagger and all that kind of stuff. But you see, because of the wealth that's in the pop music early on now, you will never see a Harry Styles at the age of 72 on a stage, will you?
Well, it's the same thing as like how many, if you equate it to sport, how many footballers with all the millions they make are gonna bother being managers? Like, you just sit on a hammock for the rest of your days, wouldn't you?
It's all about the will, the want to perform. I mean, McCartney wants to perform, Rod Stewart wants to perform.
That's true.
These guys just want to get on with it and
Well,
do
I
it.
mean, imagine Ozzy Osbourne. I mean, people that have seen Black Sabbath even years ago said that he could barely stand up then. I mean,
he's a
20 years
shambling
ago.
physical wreck.
I mean, surely he doesn't need to do it for the money, does he?
No, but this is what I'm talking about. It's these true like rock and roll characters, rock and roll antics. Keith Moon and Hellraiser, and there just aren't these characters around. And you only have to look at that when you look at the festival headline acts. It's getting harder and harder to find a new headline act. So festivals for the last 10 years have been going back and getting people out of retirement.
Right.
And
Sorry, why is it hard to find the headline acts for the festivals?
because record companies aren't taking the risk on interesting characters and people that do alternative music. It's become.
Well, I mean, look at Glastonbury last year when they put the wrong person on as the headline act,
Yeah.
and he made a complete idiot of himself.
Yeah.
Remember that when he started to sing Bohemian Rhapsody?
Who?
Was it Jay-Z, wasn't it?
Oh, was it? Yeah, that's right. I remember that. Yeah,
And I mean, it's absolutely incredibly awful.
Oh no, Kanye West, you're thinking of.
Kanye West, sorry.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
In the heyday of the pop industry and all that, I mean, a record company would invest £20 million, wouldn't they, in 3 LPs from a new artist?
Yeah.
And if the first one didn't work, they'd just bin the whole thing, wouldn't they?
I get and exactly, and I get the sense now there's a lot of people that are kind of like mannequins, if you like. They're sort of puppets for record labels. They look right, that they'll sell loads of products.
Yeah.
But it's the same few writers behind the scenes that are actually writing all the music.
Is that right?
Yeah,
See, that's always worried me. That
What's worried you?
Singers can become millionaires by singing somebody else's creation.
Why?
That's always been so unfair.
Well, did you ever say that to Frank Sinatra?
Frank
Elvis.
Elvis never wrote a song.
Well,
Frank
so what?
Sinatra never wrote a song. How
Why?
much of Rod Stewart's songs are written by Rod Stewart?
You're asking the wrong person on that
Right,
one.
okay.
I think he's.
I
I
would say he writes quite. I mean, he used to write quite a few with Ronnie Wood and the Faces.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah,
but I mean, and he sings other people's songs as well, though.
Yeah.
He sings
so.
Van Morrison, so I don't think that's a problem.
Well, he sings the songbook. He got to #1 in America with the songbook, which was
What songbook?
Well, it was lounge songs, wasn't it? All sorts of other people's songs, you know. Yeah, it was. Yeah. And he didn't
You say the songbook as if everybody has a copy of it.
Well,
I don't know what the songbook is.
Well, it got to #1 in America.
Well, how do I know that?
Well, he sang things like "I Left My Heart in San Francisco."
All right.
Okay.
Do you know, I once went to a restaurant in Chinatown where they had a
What, in
karaoke
London?
machine. Yeah.
Yeah.
And upstairs they had this great book of songs that you could sing.
Yes.
But it was all in broken English, and that song was it said, "I left my herd in San Francisco." It was brilliant. Couldn't get near the microphone either because all the Chinese people who want to do it. Now, Tim, I've got one question for you. I mean, you've obviously heard the encyclopedic knowledge that Mr. Parry has.
I'm
on
already.
the music business.
I'm sure
Absolutely incredible.
I'm sure the Virgin Radio boss is
do you
penning
think-
a contract
do you
currently.
think, do you think they might find some slot for him? Because I'm desperate to offload him, to be honest. You know, if you could get him downstairs, that'd be great.
I'm desperate to offload you, pal, don't you?
We do have a turntable as well. We do have a turntable in the Virgin Radio studio. Yeah.
So
Hang on.
he could be Mike Parry spinning some discs all day.
Excuse
What
me.
about that?
There is no chic home these days that doesn't have a turntable.
Yours
to
hasn't
play.
got one, has it?
Sorry?
Yours hasn't got one.
Which one?
Well, to take your pick. You haven't got a turntable.
In which of my homes are you talking
Well,
about?
how many homes have you got?
Well, you know how many homes I've got. So,
Well, you keep telling me you got 3.
I don't.
Yes, yeah, well, you know.
Well, you tell Tim, you've also got about another 25 properties that you don't admit to.
I'm not going into that. I'm sorry, we're not talking about
secret
this.
millionaire, you know. He
The
doesn't like
point
to admit it.
point is, in a fit of
Have
pique...
you got a turntable is the
Hang
question.
on, I'm explaining it.
That's a no.
In a fit of pique in the early 90s, I got sort of removed from my job as news of the Daily Express and asked to return to America to do the presidential election.
He was fired, yeah.
I was so disappointed, I cleared my house out because it was going to be rented out while I was away. And in a fit of pique, I threw away my LP collection. I mean, every single Beatles LP, every Stones LP, you know.
You did not have
LP.
every single
I did.
Beatles. No, you
I
don't.
did.
You only's got at home, right?
I
It's
did.
the greatest hits. Anything by anyone is greatest
I
hits.
bought them all
Queen's
in-
greatest hits. ABBA's
No.
greatest hits.
Well, what's wrong with greatest hits?
Well,
What
you
is
should-
wrong with them?
There's nothing wrong with them,
Do you
but you
see
should
that?
have the whole album.
So that list recently of the world's top records ever, what were the first 2 were greatest hits compilations. One was ABBA and the other one was Queen.
Compilations.
The other one was Queen. How about that?
But again, I'd say much like the conversation about when I was saying about seeing rock stars in context, there's a lot less listening to like an album in the context of a whole album, and
Yes.
it's much more individual tunes. So I just
Yes.
think people have less attention spans, and it's just the way it's going, I think.
It is, yeah, because people get playlists. I mean, people
Yeah.
on Spotify, they just pick songs. I mean, I remember we used to go down to an our-price record shop and buy the album, bring it home, and you hadn't heard it before.
That's right.
You couldn't say, listen to it on the radio, because nobody was playing the whole album.
No.
And you'd hear it for the first time when you got it home, which was brilliant.
That's right.
You
I
know.
remember that. That's a question I've got to ask you, Tim. Being a DJ, all the time,
pointing
DJ.
at him like that,
Well, you
aggressively?
know when Chris Evans had the problems the other day, and
What
then
do you mean,
and then
when
his-
he left Top Gear?
Yes, and then his first
Oh, and
three
then they
records.
cancelled the other show
First
as well.
three records. The next day, everybody interpreted them and said, "Oh, you know, he made a." But I'm told that you guys don't actually play records of your choice. You've got a playlist. Is that right?
I'd say it's a happy medium between there being a playlist. There's a science and an art, and the science is in understanding your audience and knowing what people want, and then there's an art which is what the individual brings. And so I certainly play records.
Okay. Well, he actually said, "I don't choose the records." He actually said, "I get a playlist." So maybe it's different at the BBC. Is it?
Maybe
You work for
it
the
is, yeah.
BBC.
Why are you asking him all these internal
I think
questions?
he might have been just fudging answering the question.
Good answer. That
Yeah.
I could have been fudging
Why are you
it.
putting him on the spot here?
Well, because I like to
right.
know a bit more
Put me
about
on the spot.
about a side of the industry.
Well, why don't you,
in
I'll tell you
which-
what, when he goes back downstairs after this, why don't you
Yeah.
go with him? And then he can tell you more about it
I wanna
while he's
know a
down
bit-
there.
I want to know a bit more about the side of the industry in which I'm not an expert.
What was
you
the
know?
last piece of music that you purchased?
Last piece of music I purchased? Actually, at Christmas, my niece bought me a new copy, because I'd worn the old one out, of ABBA's Greatest Hits. I don't know what you're laughing
He'd
at.
worn the old one out.
Yeah.
Doing what with it?
Playing it, of course, you fool. Well, I think I use it as a coffee
I've no
mug.
idea.
A coffee, what do you call it? Coaster?
A
No.
coffee coaster.
Yeah.
Tim, thank you very much indeed. I hope we
Anytime.
didn't waste too much of your time. It's very educational, particularly for
Indeed.
Porky. And when are you on Virgin? downstairs?
I'm currently covering Edith on the breakfast show, so I'll be back
Oh,
on
are
tomorrow
you?
morning, but normally in the evenings.
Oh, okay.
And
Splendid.
I've been making notes, so I'll be regurgitating all that encyclopedic information that you've given me, Mike.
Thank you very much indeed. What time do you start when you're on the breakfast show?
6.
6, okay, great. Yeah, it's a great time to start that. The world's your own, isn't it, on the
Oh,
way
yeah.
in?
You get
Excellent.
you get me to be the first one to
Excellent.
talk about the point of the
You
day.
finished?
Well, yeah, but think about it. Every day
No,
somebody
we're on a
wakes
radio
up.
programme here.
And
I mean,
the
it's not just
first-
sort of sitting about.
The first voice they hear and the first bit of music to start their day is inspired by yourself. See?
Well, there'll be someone, maybe with more rock and roll. Some of these
Do you
rock stars
listen
we've been
to,
talking about,
do you
they'll just
listen
be waking
to
up now.
Virgin normally in the morning then?
Virgin?
Do you normally listen to Virgin in the morning?
It's on my list.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So who's he filling in for?
Edith Bowman.
Oh, very good. Well done.
Okay. Got it?
Did you write
Trying
that
to catch
down
me
for
out.
him?
I think
Trying
I
to
just said it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway.
I know, but that doesn't matter normally.
Tried to catch me out.
Because he doesn't actually listen to anything anybody says. But that'd be ridiculous. That was, of course, Tim Cocker. Thank you very much indeed, Tim.
The 21st century dream team of dialogue, debate, and discourse. The Two Mics on Talk Radio. We'll get you talking.
What on earth are you doing now? Just another one of your for the Mike Porky Parry's classic record collection.
Well, do you know what day it is?
What day is it? Bastille Day.
Bastille Day.
Yeah, of course.
See? Why didn't you say so?
Well, you didn't ask me.
No, well, I mean, there you
I didn't
go.
realise you were French.
No, I'm
Normally,
not-
you're
I'm
always
not-
having a go at the French.
No, I'm not French, but I mean, in
I mean,
celebration
you
of our...
thought France would win the Euros, of course.
I
Didn't
thought
you?
they would, yeah.
Yeah, I of course predicted Portugal would. Correctly.
When you were pushed.
No, not when I was
Um,
pushed. There's video evidence of it if you wish to go back and watch it.
I think in the spirit of European unity, even
Yeah.
though we are removing ourselves Brexit-wise from the European project. I want the world to know that we are still neighbours with the French.
Well, of course we are.
And want to be good friends with them.
The continental drift has not actually made the countries further apart. And also, I keep saying to people, you know, and I'm like you, I would have rather we were remaining in the European Union, but since we're not, so be it. You know, we're not moving out of Europe. We're still Europeans.
Absolutely.
I still regard myself as a European,
Absolutely.
don't you?
No, I regard myself as a British and
you
an
don't
Englishman.
regard yourself as a European?
Well,
after all that cobblers about Bastille Day and we love the French, you don't think of yourself as a European?
I admire the French culture and I'm happy to be friends with them.
What do you like about it?
But I think Charles de Gaulle got it right in the 1958 when he said, I can't ever see Britain coming into the European Union because they're British and they're an island nation and they're very different to us. He got it right. Anyway, listen, I want to tell you something
You were banging on about him yesterday.
I want to tell you something about the Bastille.
What are you going to do about Bastille Day, then? Are you going to take me out for a slap-up French meal? I went to a great French restaurant, actually, in Soho just the other week.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay, well,
I told you about it.
We'll think about that later. Now, what I want to tell you about Bastille is I've done some work on it, and it's brilliant. You know that the whole... what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, the whole purpose of Bastille Day was celebrate the storming of the Bastille.
Yeah.
Why
It's
did
the
they
French
storm the
Revolution,
Bastille?
isn't it?
Yeah, why did they storm
Because
it?
they wanted to let everybody out.
Yeah, I know, but the problem was when they broke in and got in there were only 7 people in there.
Were there?
4 of them were lunatics,
Right.
2 of them were debtors, and 1 of them had been forgotten about for 30 years.
All right.
So they
Was the
didn't
man in the iron mask not in there, then?
no, I don't think so.
Right.
And it was.
But it's more of a kind of a metaphor for the revolution.
Yeah,
isn't
but
it?
what I'm saying is,
Doesn't actually matter how many people are in
idea
there.
is we release the people back into the community and all that. There was
Right.
nobody there to release. In fact,
Nikki
Bastilles-
Morgan's gone now as well, by the way.
she's gone, is she? Yeah, I told you that
Should be no
about
great
half.
loss. There'll be celebrations up and down the schools of this country.
I told you that about half an hour ago.
No, you told me that she might be going.
I didn't.
I'm just confirming that she's now gone.
Anyway, the prisoners in the Bastille, when it was stormed, were 4 forgers, 2 lunatics, and 1 deviant aristocrat. So, don't know what
Not
he'd be
quite
getting
as you
up to.
described them, then.
Well, I was just double-checking my facts. Now...
So you got them wrong the first time.
No,
You said
no.
there was 4 lunatics,
No.
2 debtors, and a guy who nobody had seen for 30 years.
No, not at all. Did you know...
That's what you just said.
What?
That's what you just said.
Did you know that the other great event that happened on July the 14th
Was what?
It happened in 1865, and it overtook the Bastille celebrations for a number of years.
Was this in France?
In France.
Oh, yeah, what was it?
A Frenchman climbed to the top of the Matterhorn.
All right.
Yeah, and they thought that was a greater achievement.
I don't believe that's rubbish.
No, it's
Where
not.
are you reading that?
It's all right. I got it from my
That
historical
is
journal.
nonsense. There is no way that they gave up celebrating Bastille Day just
Yeah.
because some guy climbed the Matterhorn.
They did.
Rubbish.
They did. You got to
That's
remember.
not true.
Listen, you got to remember. In 1865, they didn't even have oxygen to go climbing. Nobody climbed. well, no. I mean, that's what I mean.
What do you mean they didn't have oxygen?
It didn't have oxygen.
What do you think? Everything's all around us.
No, when you get to a greater height and the air's so thin, you have to have oxygen in a
There's
container
still oxygen.
and a mask on your face.
There's
No, it's
still
not.
oxygen.
The air's, you couldn't stand on the top of Everest without an oxygen mask. Otherwise, you would die
Have you not
within
seen
3
people
minutes.
taking pictures on the top of Everest without oxygen masks?
That's not right at the top.
Yeah, of course it is.
It's not on the summit. It's not.
Yeah, it is.
It's not. It's not.
You're talking absolute rubbish.
I'm not.
Cobleros.
What should I tell you?
I think what you should do is put down your Bastille Day project
No,
and start talking about something more sensible.
No, not at all, because everybody's interested in the Bastille because it's such an iconic sort of building,
So,
isn't it?
how many years did they celebrate this bloke going up the Matterhorn for, then?
About 5.
5?
And then they went back to the Bastille.
Really?
No, it's
you
true.
expect anyone to believe
Yeah,
that?
I do.
Are you reading it out of the Beano or something?
No, you idiot. No, the reason they stormed the Bastille was not to get the prisoners out.
Yes, it was.
No, it wasn't.
It was the whole symbolism of freeing the people.
It wasn't. In addition to being a prison, of repute, it was also the store of the government's main ammunition depot.
Yeah.
And they went in to get all the ammunition,
Right.
so they could fight the aristocracy.
Yes.
Actually, it was quite confused, the French Revolution.
Why?
Nobody quite knew who was fighting who in the end.
Why?
Well, because the aristocrats still went on to rule forever, didn't they?
No.
Well, how come Napoleon
Well, they
didn't
haven't
get
got-
done in by the
Well, they haven't-
revolutionaries?
have they got a king or not?
Yeah, but they had lots of kings, yeah.
No, but have they got a king now?
No, of course they haven't, because
No.
it's the Republic.
Yeah, because they had a revolution. They had a
viva,
revolution to get rid of the monarchy, you
viva
plank.
La
They didn't
République
keep
Sainte.
going, did
Eh?
they? They got rid of the monarchy.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is they didn't kill
That's
all
what
the
the-
aristocrats.
Well, they got rid of the monarchy. That was what the revolution was about.
Well,
Marie Antoinette and all that.
Yeah, I'm
Let
not-
them
I'm
eat
not
cake.
sure about-
What are you not sure about it?
The guy who came off worst was the Bastille governor, whose name was Bernard René d'Aulnay. believe it or not. Yeah. And, yeah.
Are you sure you're not reading this from the Beano?
No, honestly.
Or Viz or something?
No, honestly. His name was Bernard René Deluni, and he wouldn't open the door. So
I don't blame him.
That's right.
Well, perhaps he wanted to get out with the 4 lunatics and the guy nobody had seen for 30 years.
Be. So when... That's right.
Was he on his own or something, this guy?
Well, no.
Did he have any staff?
No, he didn't have any staff,
It's a
actually.
bit like Brian downstairs on the overnights with the old security.
Well, if he did, they'd all fled, because by the time they got in, they did him,
right.
and then they
killed him.
Well, they treated him badly. They did him
They
in...
treated him badly.
Cut his head off. Cut his head off, put it on a spike.
Yeah, insulted him a bit.
They put it on a spike, no, seriously, and then they were all really blatherated.
It doesn't really matter what you do once you've been beheaded.
No, they'd all got on the old French wine, and then they went running around Paris with Bernard Deluni's head on a spike and started celebrating.
Revolutions tend to be a little bit violent, don't they? Yeah. I got a great tweet here from Pete. He says, Talk Sport last week, Talk Radio this week. I don't think Porky will be on Virgin next week, though.
Hey,
Still stuck in the 70s.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, I mean, retro music makes music in many different forms, does it not?
What?
Retro music is very popular.
One of your favourite sayings?
No, it's very popular, retro music.
Retro music.
People love it.
Well,
why do you think you have all these stations called Gold and all that kind of stuff? 80s and all that kind of stuff, eh?
Why?
Well, because people like listening to music from that era.
Yeah, they do. But my point would be, at what point does a song become retro? I mean, what would you regard as a retro song?
I think a retro...
one from last year?
No. A retro...
Last week?
No, in my view, a retro song...
Last century?
A retro song at this stage of my life would be something pre-2000.
Pre-2000?
Pre-2000.
What? So it was always a retro song then?
No. What do you mean?
It's only become one now?
It's only become one now, 16 years on from 2000.
So what, because it was last century?
Well, not just that.
Was it a retro song in, say, 2005?
No, retro songs for me are the 70s, the 80s and the 90s.
But what I'm saying is that when you were in 2005,
yes.
would you have regarded a song from 1999 as retro?
No, I'd have regarded a song from any time before 90 as retro in those days. So about 15 years ago, that's what I'm saying.
So it has to be about 15 years?
Yeah, I would say so.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Across the UK, online and on DAB.
It's a new frontier in broadcasting. The Two Mics on Talk Radio.
We'll get you talking.
Good morning, I'm Mike Graham, he's Mike Parry, you're listening to Two Mics on Talk Radio. We've got loads more coming up. We're going to go across to Germany later on in the show to find out what they make of Boris Johnson being appointed to what is probably one of the most important jobs in government, Foreign Secretary, of course. The Brexiteers have been all appointed. Michael Gove's been sacked. George Osborne's out, of course, as well, like happened last night. Now Nicky Morgan's gone as well. Now Oliver Letwin looks like he's the next guy in the firing line. We'll keep you updated on all of that as it unfolds, of course, throughout the course of the day. And also, in this hour, we'll be talking about Van Gogh's ear and why it's very good to be stressed out. I don't know why you would say that, Mr. Parry, but that's apparently your view. You're listening to Two Mics with me, Mike Graham, and Mike Parry on Talk Radio.
The 21st century dream team of dialogue, debate and discourse. The Two Mics on Talk Radio. We'll get you talking.
So, I was looking through a couple of my journals last night.
Were you?
Yeah, as you call them.
Is this about you never telling me the story about those tan shoes you've got?
I bought some new shoes. I bought the new shoes when I went to Canary Wharf, and I got my watch strap, right?
Yeah.
But my original reason for going there was to buy a new pair of tan shoes.
Yeah, new watch today, by the way, have you noticed?
Oh, you got a new watch today?
Yes.
Oh, because you were embarrassed about the one you had yesterday, because everybody on Twitter said it looked like a child's watch.
No.
Or something you'd nicked from Argos.
No, not at all.
So what have you got on today, then?
I've got the Mega Schwartz.
Mega Schwartz?
Mega Swatch. Sorry, Mega Swatch.
Swatch. Why can't you say Swatch?
It's Mega Swatch.
Mega Swatch. It's a children's watch.
No, it's not. It's an international watch. Look around the rim and see what it says.
An international watch. Well, take it off. No, take it off and show it to me. I'm not going to pull your arm across the desk.
This is the highest priced swatch you can get.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, feel the weight of it. Isn't it heavy?
It's quite heavy for a watch,
yeah.
What does it have around the outside? Let's see. It says North America.
Yeah.
What's the next one? I mean, it's written both. It's written
Australia.
Backwards. Australia.
Yeah.
Well, what's the point of that?
Well, it's an international watch. You can tell what the time is in all those countries.
That's rubbish, though,
yes.
isn't it? How much you pay for that?
I bought it in somewhere like Switzerland.
You bought it in somewhere like Switzerland?
Yes. It could have been Austria.
What, do you mean a place with mountains and a lot of chocolate?
No, you fool. What I mean is, I think I bought it...
I've got an urge to throw it, but I don't want to hurt your feelings.
Don't be ridiculous. I bought it when I was covering the European Championships that England didn't get to in 2008. And I was in the airport on the way home, and I thought, I better buy some presents.
So you bought one for yourself?
Well, I bought this for somebody else.
Oh, really?
But I liked it so much, I never gave it to them.
Oh, who were you going to give it to?
I can't remember, but I bought it for somebody,
Really?
and thought that'd be
How
nice.
much did you pay for it?
I think it was about like $80 US or 80 Swiss francs.
Really?
I'm not sure. But anyway,
You're not sure?
No. But it doesn't
I
matter.
wouldn't have paid more than 20 quid for that.
What?
I wouldn't have paid more than
No,
20
I think
quid
it's a
for
bit.
that.
Well, do you know why?
It's not a beautiful watch.
Do you know what I call
Yeah, I'll
it?
tell you what. I'll take another picture of it, and
Okay,
then we'll put that
Right.
out.
Do you know what I call it?
You should wear a different watch tomorrow as well.
Yeah. Do you know what I call it?
What do they call it?
No, what I call it.
What do you call it?
I call it my Everton watch because
It's got a blue
a
strap.
blue leather strap. You see?
It's just horrendous.
It's not. It's a beautiful watch.
It's not. It is not a beautiful watch.
Well, I think it
under
is.
no circumstances
I think
would
it
you
is.
call it that.
Go on, you take
It's like a child's watch.
It's not a child's watch. Why
It's
do
a
you
sort of
say
watch.
everything
It's
I've
just-
got is a child's?
Because everything you have got is
No,
like
it's
because you
not.
live like a child.
No.
You eat like a child.
You idiot.
You entertain yourself like a child.
If I
you have children's watches.
if I eat
Why has
pizza,
it got? It's got one number on it, which
If
is
I-
a 12. What are these three dials for?
because they're international dials. If I
International dials.
if I eat pizza, you say, "Oh, you've got a children's diet." Millions of adults eat
yeah, but
pizza.
they don't eat pizza every day.
I don't eat pizza every day.
Yeah, but on the days you don't eat pizza, you eat Chinese takeaway.
Yeah, that's
you
what
eat
I like.
fish fingers built into a little pyramid.
No,
Yes, you do.
No, I
You've
don't.
admitted to
I
doing
eat
that.
fish sometimes.
You like Angel Delight.
Listen, whilst you're taking that,
You drink orange squash.
ridiculous picture.
I'm just trying to make sure it doesn't get, it's not too glary.
No.
So that people can see the amazing
Yeah.
dial.
Well, in that case, turn it to one side, away from the light, you fool.
No, I can't do that.
Yes, you can.
No, I can't.
Yes, you can. Anyway, listen, I told you I was going to say to you, right?
Yeah, go on.
I have seen a list of treasured moments from your childhood, which you relive.
From my childhood?
No, from
Well,
anybody's
you've been
childhood.
spying on me.
No, from anybody's childhood, which you then relive with your own children.
Right.
Now, as you've got...
Well, you can't do that, can you?
No, I can't.
You haven't got any
I
children.
haven't got any children.
Thank God for
But
that.
You've got two boys aged, I think, 9 and 11, right?
Yeah, don't give their names away,
Well,
please.
no, I won't give the names.
Thank you.
9 and 12, something like that, is it? 10 and 12?
What
is it?
difference does it make?
Well, they're about that age, aren't they?
About that age.
Right. What do you... Now, I'm going to find out if you do
You want to
these
give out their
things...
address as well while we're at it.
No. I'm going to find out if you do these things with them.
Right.
Family holidays.
Family holidays.
Yeah.
Oh, well, of course I do.
No, and did you on family holidays with your family, with your mum and dad?
Yeah, of course I did.
Right, okay. Do you play hide and
What
seek?
is this from the prison manual or something?
Yeah. Do you play hide and seek with your children?
Not really, no.
Have you done in the past?
Yeah, probably.
Right. Do you collect shells with them on the beach? What are you laughing at? What's your problem?
Well, you don't really know much about children, do you?
Hang on, I'm telling you what
What do you
treasured
think
moments
this is like
are.
some kind of ladybird book?
No,
Let's go collect
no.
some shells on the beach.
No, research.
Well, first of all, you have to drag them off the PS4. Then you have to
Research.
make sure they don't carry their iPads with them. Then you have to make sure they're not on a skateboard. There you
Research.
go. Let's get some shells.
Research suggests that you relive your childhood through
Yeah.
your own children.
Well, that would be
And-
terrible news for you because you'd have
and-
to put them in a cupboard under the stairs.
And the way you do this, right, is by, taking up sort of, pastimes and things that
Yeah,
you used
right.
to do with children. Now, for instance,
Well, like what else then?
right, do you attend your children's sports days?
Yes, if I can.
And do you tell them about their
Although,
your
funnily
sports
enough,
days? Yes.
I went to go to the sports day a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
It was on a Friday.
Yeah.
And I rushed down there after I finished doing the overnight show.
Right.
And it was cancelled.
Why?
Because the field was waterlogged.
Rained off?
Yeah, it was rained off.
That's bad
And
news.
so, unfortunately, it's actually
Yep.
tomorrow, and I won't be able to go because I'll be here.
Okay, that's... Oh, I see. So you can't go to the rearranged one?
I can't go to the
Oh,
rearranged
okay,
one.
it's bad news, isn't it?
It is
Right,
bad news.
But you would have gone had we been working on the
Had we been
timetable that we
working-
had a couple of weeks
Yeah,
ago.
yes, I would have done.
see.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah. So
fine.
these are sacrifices you sometimes have to make.
Now, this is an interesting one because
go
I know that the world has changed so dramatically since you were a child and your children are children in this particular aspect.
Yes.
Do you sit down and watch children's TV with your children?
They don't really watch children's TV
That's what I
anymore.
mean, they don't, do
I mean,
they?
they did,
Yeah.
and I used to.
Yes.
But I mean, once they get beyond the age of about 6,
Okay, so
they
you
want
did.
they want to watch The Exorcist.
What
You know,
sort of
that-
programmes did you watch with them? What
We used to watch the Teletubbies. In fact, I watched
Okay.
the Teletubbies twice around because I watched it with my older kids when
Right.
they were younger.
Oh, I see.
And then there was In the Night Garden,
Yeah.
which was a sort of a weird show, obviously written by a lot of people on acid.
Yeah.
Who had all these like people that came alive made of
People on
stone.
acid, that's not very good.
It was really weird.
Right, I'll rush through the others. Do you eat fish and chips with your children?
Yes.
Do you go pick and mix sweet buying with them?
Pick and mix stealing with them, yeah.
Pick and mix stealing?
Yeah.
What are you on about?
Well, when you go through the supermarket and you kind of pick up a couple of chocolate raisins as you're going round. You know.
Good God. I don't know. That's disgusting. Well,
Why?
of course, you were a child shoplifter, weren't you?
Well, I did a bit of shoplifting in my youth, yeah.
I see. That's disgraceful.
Why?
Even if I was a shoplifter, I wouldn't admit to it.
Well, I mean,
It's
it's not a question of...
disgraceful.
I mean, I used to go to a newsagent's, like everybody
Yeah.
did at my school,
Yeah.
and somebody would ask for something, you'd make the guy turn around, and everybody would just fill their pockets.
That is disgraceful.
Didn't everybody do that?
I'm not going to pursue that.
Really?
Now, this one even amuses me. with your children, have you played British Bulldog?
No.
No, exactly.
No, but I mean, I used to play that in my school. I didn't play it with my parents. You don't play British Bulldog with your parents.
No,
Unless you've got a very large family.
Oh, really? Okay, yeah, fine. Now then, do you...
Well, did you do any of this stuff when you were a child? Did you collect shells with your two sisters?
Well, not shells.
I should tell people, by the way, who don't know, that you were the odd one out.
No, I wasn't.
That your parents would take you to a restaurant and they'd get a table for 4. And you'd be left standing there, wondering where you were supposed to sit. No, and then they'd have to drag a stool across and put you down on it.
That's mostly
and then they'd take you to the fairground, wouldn't they? And your parents would go on one sort of double-seated ride.
Yes.
And your two sisters would go on the other one. And you'd be left standing there,
usually
holding a candy floss.
Yeah, that's right.
Shocking childhood.
That was. Now then, do you check your children's pencil cases before they go to school?
No. No, again, because they're now responsible for their own stuff.
Right, okay.
And so they are told that they have to pack their own bag for school.
Right. Do you allow them to climb trees?
Yes.
And do they?
Yes.
Okay. This is a great one here. Recording the music charts on a Sunday.
What?
Don't you remember Alan Freeman?
Yeah,
Top
I
of the
remember
Pops,
that. Yeah, but they don't. Yeah, but now they've got Spotify.
Exactly.
And they've got their own iPads.
Exactly.
I mean, it's a different world.
Do they still have school dinners, or do you send them to school with sandwiches?
It depends on them. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they take a sandwich with them.
Okay. Do children still collect things like cards out of bubblegum packets?
They sometimes do. I mean, during the Euros, they were collecting football cards.
Right.
You know, but not really an awful lot.
Okay. Do you get the ice cream van with the music around your neighbourhood, and do you chase after the van for your children?
Funnily enough, it comes to my street in London. But I live in a private road in Sussex, so no, it's not allowed down there.
Exactly. Does the mother of your children ever have to go out as darkness is descending to get the children in because they still won't stop playing football or whatever? No, we used to do that. I used to play football on the playing fields in Hoole in Chester, right, until literally the dark was coming. And one of the mothers...
Well, we've got a very big garden, right?
Yeah.
So they play in the garden quite often until after dark.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, okay, yeah. But one of the mothers would have to come out and say, come in for your tea. Because we used to call dinner tea, you see, in the north of England.
Of course you did,
yeah. And, and it'd be 9:30. And then finally, this is the last one. Finally, and this applies to you absolutely.
What's the point of all this, by the way?
Do you paddle in the sea with your children?
Well, you swim in the sea with them.
Oh, do you? Well, I mean, yeah, but on the Sunday morning, you don't take your swimming costumes. You take your shoes off and roll your trousers up and paddle, don't you?
Well, I don't normally paddle in the English Channel, to be honest, because it's a bit cold.
Well, it's not this
time
of the year.
The dog goes in the water, and they'll sometimes go in, depending on how warm the day is.
Well, there you go, you see. You know, all sorted.
But when we're on holiday, as we will be soon, hopefully, there'll be an awful lot of swimming and paddling being done in the sea.
Where are you going on holiday?
I'm not telling you.
Why not?
Because you want to blurt everything out.
No.
You told everybody where we were staying when we were going up to the show we're doing in Whitley Bay in September.
That's a long time off.
Give them the name of the hotel.
They'll forget, don't worry.
Plank. So you have to stop giving away every single piece of personal information.
I like to merge and mould with the audience. It's as simple as that.
Well, like the time you put your address on Twitter.
That was a bit of a mistake.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Across the UK, online and on DAB.
The Two Mics on Talk Radio. We'll get you talking.
Talk Radio, we are the Two Mics. There will be a podcast coming out. We have declared, I think, tomorrow that the Porky quiz will be on David Cameron, which is no bad thing at all, of course. Now, I've got a few tweets to read out. You can tweet us at the Two Mics, of course, or at Talk Radio. Pete says this: Edward Whymper was an English mountaineer best known for the first ascent of the Matterhorn in 1865. Was that the same guy?
Yeah, he was French.
No, he was English, apparently.
Apparently a French guy got there first.
Well, not according to this. Not according to Pete.
Okay.
Robbie says Mike Parry is the ultimate Billy Liar.
What?
Which is quite good, actually.
That's a bit harsh.
No, you are the ultimate Billy Liar.
And what lie am I supposed to have told?
Well, you tell lies constantly.
Don't be ridiculous.
It'd be easier to nominate which truth you've actually come out with so far on this show this week. I was asking you yesterday, and I've just sent your watch picture out, by the way.
Oh, yeah,
You can't call it Watch of the Day.
Yeah, okay.
Because Porky's got so many watches, he's going to wear a different one each day until we can choose which one's the best one.
We're doing mid-morning shows between now and the end of another 2 weeks.
Yes.
I will bring in 11 different watches.
Just bring in all your different watches. But the one today, I think, is more hideous than the one you had yesterday.
No, I don't think it is.
Here's one from, let's see, Nick. Did you mention somebody called Henry Hill? He says, I thought Henry Hill was a gangster. Did you mention Henry Hill? Yeah, Henry Hill was in...
the Bastille?
Eh?
Was that when I was talking about the Bastille?
I've no idea.
I can't remember.
Yeah. And Mangan says this, telling Porky's again yesterday, a couple of years ago, he used to have new Velcro Lonsdale trainers every month. Now,
I
yesterday you denied having shoes that were Velcro tied together. Because actually, funnily enough, this is what I was going to tell you just before you launched into that whole thing about childhood.
Oh, right.
I was looking through one of my many journals last night, as you would claim.
Yes.
And I found a great pair of shoes for you here.
Great pair of
Only
shoes.
£25, right?
£25.
Extra wide, real leather,
Yeah.
and with Velcro fastening, so you don't ever have to do them up.
Why would I be interested in that?
Because you wear Velcro
I
fastened
don't.
shoes.
I haven't got any Velcro
Yes, you
fastened
have.
shoes. I haven't.
You've worn them on stage.
I have not, and I don't
They're
have
like
them.
those kind of the Sports Direct specials.
No, I haven't.
Size 5. Look like something out of Mothercare.
I have not, and once again, you're trying to demean me and belittle me.
Anyway,
it's
if you want this,
absolutely
there's a
untrue.
special offer code.
No, I don't want to know about it. What about the shoes you're supposed to have bought yesterday? What happened to them?
Well, I've got them on.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, that's a scruffy pair that you've just bought. How much do they cost you?
They cost about £70 in the sale.
Rubbish.
They
70
did.
quid.
There you go.
Let me have a look.
They're very nice, aren't they?
Yeah, I think they're
You don't like them.
pathetic.
I know
They're
they've got
pathetic.
laces, so you never wear them.
No, they're
Well, let's have a look at your
ridiculous.
shoes then. What have you got on today?
What have I got on today?
Yeah.
I've got light shoes on today.
Light shoes.
Yes, I'll
let's
show
have a
you.
look.
What
Why
are you
have they
laughing
got like those kind of wedge heels?
They haven't got wedge
Try and make you
heels.
taller.
They haven't got wedge heels. They are cushioned heels
Right,
because
cushioned.
I need them to keep my knees in shape.
Really?
Yeah, my knee joints. I had
So where did you get those shoes?
I got these from
Sports Direct?
No, I got these from the
Clarks?
Nike shop in Gunwolf Keys.
Are they Nikes,
in
then?
Portsmouth? Yes.
Are you sure?
Yes.
All right. Well, we'll take a picture of those later as well. And send
Why?
them out.
Why do you want to take a picture of everything I've got?
Well, because people are fascinated
No,
by
I'm
your
not.
strange and unusual lifestyle.
I don't have a strange, unusual lifetime.
Yes, you do.
I do
Lifestyle.
not. I do not.
Yeah, well, coming up a little bit later on, we're going to speak
Yeah.
to a professor called Professor Ian Robertson,
Right.
who's a clinical psychologist and neuroscientist.
Yes.
And he's going to be talking about stress, right?
Yeah.
Because apparently stress is actually very good for you.
Yeah,
now,
well-
you and I know a bit about stress, don't we?
Oh yeah, we know about stress, but I mean, you tend to sort of let stress run over you. I tend to take it more seriously.
What do you
That's
mean,
why-
run over me?
That's why. Well, you don't
No, I
pay enough
absorb-
attention
I
to things
absorb
in life.
stress.
and that's why I've had a
Well, I
more
don't get-
successful life.
Well, you haven't had a more successful
Well, I
life
think
than
I
me.
have.
Well, you might think so, but
Yeah.
you're the most deluded man I've ever met.
Absolutely, man.
Now, it
Let's-
says here, one
Yeah.
of the things to sort of to harness stress
Yes.
that you can do, there's 4 things you can do.
Yeah.
You can adopt, and I'd love to see you try this,
What?
you can adopt a power posture,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So basically it means you try and adopt some kind of a superhero pose. Do you know what I mean? So you
Yes.
kind of stick your chest
Well,
out,
for-
try and look like Superman.
You know, George Osborne has just been sacked
Yeah.
as the Chancellor of the Exchequer.
yeah, he's not had a very good week, has he?
No. Do you remember at the last Tory party conference, they took some body language training,
Oh, yeah.
and they were all taught to stand there. Do you not remember? You know, with their
What, like
arms.
Ronaldo when he scores a goal?
That's right.
He does that thing with his arms.
Yeah, they were. They were all taught to stand there because apparently.
Do you remember the most ridiculous one example of someone who was overtrained in that way?
Yeah.
was Ian Duncan Smith. Do you remember when
Duncan Smith.
he was put in the middle of
The
this
quiet
kind of
man.
the quiet man is pumping up the volume, and you
Yeah.
went, "What?
Yes, that's
what
right,
on
yeah.
earth are you talking about?" But he
Yeah.
actually adopted this weird kind of marauding kind of walk.
No.
When he was doing this speech, he was kind of walking around in little circles.
Really?
And using his fists, and he was trying to convince everyone that he'd become this kind of
A tough guy.
macho, kind of tough guy. It was the most ridiculous thing you've ever seen.
The,
and obviously some idiot had been paid, thousands of pounds.
To teach him the body language.
teach him how to do
and
it.
all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff, yeah. It's all that about eye contact and all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff, isn't it?
And like Miliband as well, Ed Miliband,
Yeah.
he was useless at it.
Completely useless.
And then tried to do it on the hoof.
Yeah, he did.
And kept forgetting, he completely forgot to mention any of the economic policy, didn't he? in his
He
speech?
did, yeah. Robbie Williams is so successful as a singer
Yeah.
because he was taught by a body language expert never to lose eye contact with the person that you're talking to,
Yeah.
okay? Now, I don't know where he got this from because he was still a young kid. He was about 18 at the time.
Well, he went to stage school, didn't he?
He did go to stage school, I think you're right, yeah, that's
Most
right.
of these people did.
Yeah, they did, yeah.
You know, and like all these
So-
people that come on the X Factor and you
That's
go,
right,
oh,
yeah.
what a
Yeah,
wonderful,
yeah.
talented
So-
little girl. It's like
so-
she's been to stage school for 10 years.
Yeah. So he answers an advert, right, for, 5 guys to get together to form a new group,
Yeah.
which happened to be Take That, but
Yeah.
I mean, nobody had ever heard of them. So he goes into the room, and I don't know who's interviewing. Who was the original manager?
I don't know.
You know
Was it Simon Fuller, was it?
No, it might have been somebody like him, but Piers Moore, our mate Piers Morgan,
Well,
wrote...
Piers wrote his first book,
He
didn't
did, yeah,
On
exactly,
Robbie Williams,
exactly, and this tale was related in the book.
Yeah.
And whoever the manager was, he was a
Did
northern
you not
bloke.
meet the Take That guys?
Yeah, I did.
When they came into in your office?
I was editing the paper at the time,
Yeah.
and they came in, right, and they brought this manager guy with them. He was a
Well, I can't remember his name.
he
Then.
was a Manchester lad as well. He got double barrel surname,
Really?
Manchester lad, looking after Take That. You know what I mean? Like, And
sounds more like a Scouser.
That did actually a bit, yeah. Hey, you know what I mean? Like, how does Liam Gallagher do it?
Well,
hey,
I can't mention. We can't mention Liam Gallagher. By the way,
we haven't spoken about England.
We've got to remind everybody about that Twitter spat that you had. We've had a communique from his people.
We certainly have. We're going to in a minute. Anyway, the point of my story. When they came in, by the way,
rambling.
No, when they came into. I was editing on that day. They came into the editor's office, and the little guy.
The little guy?
Yeah, he's still in the group. There's three of them left. And
Jason Orange?
No, Jason Orange has left, hasn't he?
Has he?
Yeah.
I'm not up to speed on Take That, to be honest.
It's Gary
Have you got
Barlow.
their greatest hits?
Hey?
Have you got their greatest hits?
No, I've never. I didn't really like any of the Take That records. I like the one about everything changes but you. I'm a million years away and I need you, baby. Or something
Don't
like that.
sing.
Anyway, the little guy, Marky Owen, right? Does that name ring a bell?
Who?
Mark Owen.
Oh yeah, wasn't he the one that kind of had a bit of a
breakdown,
marital problem?
I think he might have done as well. Anyway,
his wife took him back.
I think his wife took him back. So he comes in, and I'm not paying much attention until I look at the fruit bowl. He's eaten all the fruit.
What fruit?
Well, he had 2 apples.
Well, how much fruit did you have?
2 bananas.
You don't eat fruit. Why'd you have fruit in your office?
Well, it wasn't my office. It was the editor's office, and I was just editing.
Oh,
that
you
day.
were just sitting in there pretending to be editing.
Exactly. Yeah.
When
they
came in.
That's right. Yeah. And I got I had a terrible spat then with the real editor.
Right.
Because when he went back the following day, he said, "Where's all my fruit?"
Yeah. And
I said, "What do you mean?"
Well, didn't he just get it replenished?
He gets replenished 3 times a week. And it wasn't
replenished. 3 times? Why don't you just get it replenished when it's empty?
No, because it comes from outside. The guy comes round with the fruit wagon. You know what I mean? No, yeah, seriously, yeah. And
That's
this,
ridiculous.
Yeah, I know. And this wasn't replenishing day, you see. Right. And he liked this guy had.
Well, if you'd had any brains or a nous, you would have gone out and replaced the fruit.
I didn't know that there was this ritual about it being replaced every 2 days. Anyway, the problem was the editor I was working for at the time was fat and had a battle against putting on more weight.
Oh, I see. So he was on a fruit diet.
Exactly. He used to eat fruit all day long, because if he had an apple in his mouth, he couldn't have a pork pie in his mouth. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And a banana and all that. So he comes in next morning. So instead of discussing the paper that I'd edited the day before and whether the splash was right, was page 3 right...
Well, it probably wasn't, was it?
Was the back right and all that kind of stuff.
Probably wasn't any good.
I got someone into his office and made to sit in the naughty chair, which is a little chair in front of his huge desk, and was lambasted about, what did you get up to yesterday? I said, well, you've seen the paper. I'm not talking about the paper. Sorry? Where's my fruit gone? I'm sorry? Where is all the fruit gone? And he started to get angry and nasty, I said, well, it's only a banana, only an orange. Where's it all gone? He got really, he got really angry.
It's ridiculous, isn't it, the way people behave in offices?
Yeah, he got really angry. Right. And I was trying to sputter out, and I said, well...
Well, did you offer to go and buy some for him?
I just felt so ridiculous. I said, take that at it all. He said, what? What are you doing? I said, I'm sorry. I said, Piers had them in yesterday. He said he's just written their book. They did a big celebrity interview.
They've eaten all your fruit.
And if you look at the page today, they celebrity guest edited the bizarre column that Piers writes. But one of them came in here to say hello, and I'm afraid they're all the fruit. He went mad. Completely mad. Yeah. Banned them from ever coming back in the office.
The 21st century dream team of dialogue, debate and discourse. The 2 mics on Talk Radio. We'll get you talking.
We are the 2 mics. This is Talk Radio. There will be a podcast coming out. The Porky quiz will be tomorrow. Normally, for people who listen to our show, we do it on a Thursday, but this week we're going to be doing it on a Friday.
No, actually, we do it on a Friday, don't we?
Well, it's a Thursday
morning.
night, Friday morning.
Yeah, exactly,
I mean, people still can't quite decide,
yes.
I don't think.
Yes.
Sometimes when they say, are you on TalkSport tonight?
Yes.
What they mean is, are you on TalkSport in the early hours of tomorrow morning?
Well, indeed.
But so I always just call it the night, really.
Yes.
I say we do Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night. But anyway, let me read you a few of the tweets I've got from the watch scenario.
Yes.
A lot of people have been very, very interested in your watches, right? James says this.
Yes.
Where's the rest of it? Looks like its face has been smashed with a hammer.
What?
# plank.
Are you mad?
Lewis says it's a scruffy-looking watch. Paul says, has the front come off Porky's watch?
No.
Here's one from Brian who says, this watch is better than yesterday's, but not that much better. Paul says, looks far too complex for Porky. Does he understand how it works? I'm not sure he does. Here's one from Paul. Porky's watch has the wrong date on it. Hashtag knockoff. It's
No.
got the wrong date on it.
No.
Well, tell me what the date says.
Well, it hasn't got a date,
Well, it's got all sorts of ridiculous numbers written around the outside of it. It's got North America and South America written on it.
I just noticed it has got a date thing. It says the 6th.
Well, it's wrong then, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
It's the 14th, as you just said
Yeah,
earlier.
that's right, yeah. I never take notice of the date thing. I never bother with it.
What's the point of having 9 or 12 different watches if they're all wrong?
Because I know the date.
It's typical of you,
I
isn't
don't
it?
need reminding what the date
You've got
is.
12 watches, but none of them actually work. Here's one from Villa Rich, who says, I'm sure Porky wears black Velcro trainers on the Two Mics DVD. I think he's right. That one we filmed at the Hen and Chicken.
No, I don't.
Yes, I think that's true.
They are not Velcro, I promise you. I haven't got any Velcro.
Yeah, you have.
I haven't.
Jack says, is that a Velcro strap on your watch?
No, it's not, no.
Matt says, those dials are measuring heart rate, blood pressure and intellect. And there's another one here from Laura, who says, that's definitely better than yesterday's watch.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, well, there you go, you see. And yesterday's watch was only my working watch, and this is a better one. Thank you very much indeed.
And Andrew says it's better than yesterday's, but it needs to have a metal strap.
No, it doesn't. I hate metal straps. I like leather straps. I don't like metal straps. I think they're ostentatious.
Why don't you get on with metal straps then?
I just think they're ostentatious.
Has your Rolex got a leather strap as well?
No, my Rolex has a typical Rolex.
A metal strap?
No, gold and silver plated metal strap.
It's a metal strap.
Yes, that's right.
Why does it have to be gold and silver? You're such a snob.
Well, no,
Why does it have to be gold and silver plated?
Well, because
Why
it
can't
is.
it just be metal?
Well, because it is.
Yeah, but you just said you don't like metal straps.
Well, I don't. Normally speaking, I don't.
Right,
But I
so
think
that's another lie.
No. On a
When you got a Rolex, and then you call it a Porkex. Are you sure it's a real Rolex?
On a Rolex, you should have a link. Gold and silver.
Gold and
strap.
silver plated.
Yeah, sure. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I think this looks great. I've just seen this picture for the first time because I haven't had time to look at it.
What,
the
watch?
picture of my watch? I think it's great.
Matt says this: the dials actually measure blood pressure, heart rate, and how many days you have left to live. Which should be very good.
Might not be too far from the truth.
Yeah, it might not be.
Yeah,
now,
you
mentioned Liam Gallagher earlier, right?
Indeed.
Because for those people who don't know, and you can go to our Facebook page if you want to see a selection of some of the insults that Liam Gallagher made to you on Twitter, because you basically attacked him a couple of weekends ago for no apparent reason, other than you've been in the pub for a few hours and decided to pick a fight with somebody.
No, it's not true. Listen, I think Liam Gallagher's brilliant. And he's a great.
That's not what you said. You said he was an average singer.
Well, hang on.
You said his brother Noel was
of
of Lennon and McCartney stature, but he was an average pub singer.
Well, look, we're having a bit of banter. The point is,
I don't think that's how he saw it.
The point is, the three greatest frontmen.
He called you Papa Smurf, didn't he?
Oh, he called me terrible things. I mean, much worse than Papa Smurf, believe me.
A lot of the things we can't say.
He told me to go off and play with my little Noel doll, you freak. So it was a bit harsh because I was defending his brother. But basically, the three greatest frontmen in the history of rock and roll have been Mick Jagger, Freddie Mercury, and Liam Gallagher.
What about David Bowie?
Well, David Bowie wasn't in a group. David Bowie was an individual.
He wasn't in a group.
He wasn't in a group.
Really?
He was an individual
You haven't
musician.
seen Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars, then?
And was he still...
I saw him live, right, in Madison Square Garden on the Let's Dance tour.
Yeah, but
trust me, he had a group.
But he wasn't a lead singer.
What was he then?
He was holding a guitar at the time. He wasn't a lead singer.
Who was the lead singer of David Bowie's group then?
Listen, you're going
what are you talking about?
You're on a tangent. Think of the frontman I'm talking about: Jagger, Mercury. And Liam Gallagher.
Yeah.
They stood out at the front of the stage with nothing but
a
a microphone in their hand.
Sometimes Freddie Mercury played the piano. Sometimes he had a guitar.
Oh, yeah, I'm giving up, honestly.
Mick Jagger will have a guitar sometimes.
Stop being so so ridiculously...
No, what, you mean truthful?
Nitpicking.
I'm not nitpicking. I'm correcting your statement.
Let's move on to something else. Come on, move on to something else, because this is a stupid...
What, are you getting irritated now?
I'm getting irritated that you won't accept that Mick Jagger was a great frontman.
Well, he was.
That Freddie Mercury was a great frontman.
Yeah, he was.
And that Liam Gallagher was.
Yeah, he was
without
too.
Nitpicking
But the trouble you is, right?
Trying to construct some ridiculous anti-arguments.
No, because you said you can't count David Bowie as a frontman, which is a nonsensical thing to say.
You can't. David Bowie's mostly an individual artist.
Not true.
Well, anybody who's been listening to this debate...
You don't know anything about music because you haven't seen him play and you haven't seen him live and you haven't seen any of them live.
I'm telling you that David Bowie will not be recognised as a group's frontman in the same way as Jagger, in the same way as Freddie Mercury, as the same way as Liam Gallagher. Would you accept that?
Well, I suppose just for the sake of calming you down and making sure that you don't throw another strop and walk out of the studio.
No, for your petty, stupid little argument, you're going to accept it. Good.
Well, I mean, the point about Liam Gallagher is not about you rehashing what you think of Liam Gallagher, which is what you're now doing. The whole point of having a conversation is so that I can read you the missive which I've received
and I'm trying
from
to give
Liam
the background
Gallagher's
to
people.
it. Trying to give the background to it. I said I admire Liam Gallagher for all the reasons I've just outlined. And then what happened was Liam Gallagher put out a tweet saying what I thought was stating the blinking obvious, that our kid, which he spelled R-K-I-D, meaning Noel Gallagher,
his brother,
has finally declared that the Oasis will ever get back together again, right? To which I replied something like, well, that's hardly surprising, you know, because let's face it.
Because you're an average pub singer.
No, I didn't use the word pub. I said he's of Lennon-McCartney type musician. He's a Lennon-McCartney type musician, whereas you are an average singer.
Yes.
Right? And then I said,
it all kicked off.
And then I said, to add to it, I could do your job, but you couldn't do mine.
Yeah.
And he got a bit upset about that.
It's a slightly presumptuous thing to say.
Well, you know.
Since you can't really do his job.
It was all in jest. It was all in jest.
Well,
wasn't
anyway,
it, you know?
here's what happened since then, because we've been trying to see whether he might wish to come on the radio.
Exactly.
And bury the hatchet.
Like him to come on and debate the issue.
Preferably not actually in the side of your head.
Yes.
But basically, our producer from earlier on in the week had got in touch with his PR people. I'm not going to name them because that would be unethical, some would say.
Yes. Well, they are PR, so they're supposed to be up front, you know, public relations and all that.
But they're behind the scenes, though.
Oh, yeah.
You don't have to give their names away. Anyway, so the woman in question, who shall remain nameless, did get back in touch with a very straight one-liner, basically saying Liam is not currently available for interview.
Right.
That was it.
Yes.
Right. So then our producer, being a sort of dogged sort of individual, went back
a good professional,
to say, is there any particular reason why he's not available at the moment? And then this is what came back after that.
Right.
He hasn't done interviews for over 4 years, as has been having some time out. He has no intention of doing interviews again until he has something to promote. And when he does, it will be relevant, not about Twitter spats from someone trying to get a rise out of him.
That's very harsh, isn't it, eh? Well, I didn't just try to get a rise out of him.
Well, you did, really, didn't you?
I did get a rise out of him, didn't I?
Well, you did. Was that what you were doing it for?
No, I wasn't trying to get a rise out of him.
In many ways, that's cruel.
No,
you're basically picking on celebrities, knowing that they will respond to you in a way which you may be able to make some hay from.
Can I tell you? I mean, she says he hasn't given an interview for 4 years.
Yeah.
I would contend that that's because he had nothing to talk about for 4 years.
Well, he's had beady eye, hasn't he?
Well, yeah, beady eye. I mean, what was that?
Didn't go very well. He opened a shop as well, didn't he? Beady eye. In fact, you said you go to Carnaby Street a lot. That's where it is.
Is
He's
it
got
really?
a shop in Carnaby Street.
Is he still there?
I don't know.
Well,
but he just started a line of clothes.
I think you know the producer who produced Beady Eye, don't you?
I do.
And I think that the general verdict was that it was a load of old tosh, wasn't it?
I wouldn't want to put words in anybody's mouth.
No, okay, yeah.
And obviously I wouldn't want to betray any kind of confidence.
No.
Unlike you.
Yeah,
So I'm not going to go anywhere near that.
No, but what I'm saying...
Thanks anyway.
What I'm saying is I didn't mean the producer. The producer did a hugely professional job with Liam Gallagher.
That's not what I'm talking about. You don't get any of this, do you? You have no idea about confidentiality, ethics, the way to behave as a journalist. Do you know anything about that?
And then the rock reviewers, right, thought it was a load of old tosh, right?
Well, it didn't do very well.
That's what I'm saying.
It didn't do very well.
It didn't sell, so it must have been a load of old tosh.
Yeah.
So he hasn't had a lot to talk about. So all I'm saying is, over the past 3 or 4 years, I must have sent Liam Gallagher, I don't know, a dozen texts along the tweets, tweets.
What, are you stalking him or something?
No. When I've seen him tweet out on something I've not agreed with, it might have been about Manchester City, it might have been about our kid, it might have been about some political issue or whatever, I've responded, and I never expect to hear from him. On this one particular occasion, for some unknown reason,
would you
he
not
decided
also
to respond.
Would you not also say, if somebody is a celebrity and they don't give interviews, for example, what are they doing on Twitter? Because when you're on Twitter, you're basically... I mean, one of the reasons that, say, for example...
It's a communication form.
Well, yeah, but one of the reasons to say newspapers and magazines and all sorts of things are less relevant than they used to be is because now celebrities are directly accessible to people who follow them on Twitter or Instagram or anything like that.
Yeah, but remember, you see, for celebrities who are narcissistic, like Liam Gallagher, who's got 1 million followers but does not follow single person...
No, although he might be starting to follow you soon, I think.
Well, maybe, but what I'm saying is Twitter provides a very safe one-way line of communication.
Yeah.
If you agree to sit down with a music journalist and talk about Beady Eye, then you don't have the absolute say in what is published.
That's true.
In the words.
That's true.
Right?
And also the questions that you're going to be asked.
Exactly. Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. So anyway...
he's not being interviewed by you or me or the two of us
no, but I mean,
for any time in the future.
We have to stress that it's an open invitation at all times.
It certainly is.
For like to come on the show. Now, his brother Noel has appeared on Talk Sport and
Noel's
Talk
on
Radio
Talk Sport a lot,
a few times and has always been extremely eloquent.
Well, you know, he listens to the show.
Listens to the show.
Because one of the stories I can tell you is that after the U2 concert in the O2 in London, which was attended by one of U2's former producers and Noel Gallagher, who was up on stage with Bono, they were having a conversation on the boat, going backwards and forwards up the river, because there was a party going on somewhere in central London. and said producer saw Noel for the first time in a while, and Noel said, "Oh, hi, Steve, how are you?" And he went, "Oh, I haven't seen you for a while." He said, "Yeah, did you know that I've moved out into the Far East, which is where he is?"
Yes.
He says, "Yeah, of course I knew that." He said, "I listened to you on the 2 mics. Whenever you're talking from over there, I know that's where you are."
Well, there you go.
So he's
Yeah,
a
you
great,
see?
he's a great
Yeah.
fan. His brother's a big fan of the show.
Yeah.
Anyway, Victoria says this: "I'm off to my 9-year-old sports day. Might sneak you along in my pocket." How about that?
Who's that to?
Well, it's to us.
Oh, I see.
I think she means that she'll take some kind of listening device.
Oh, I see. Right.
God,
okay.
you're thick today, aren't you?
Okay. Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah.
Neil says Porky's setting himself up for another pasting from Liam Gallagher. Hashtag
right, yeah.
never learn.
Hey.
Ernie says Porky told us yesterday he sets his watch forward 3 minutes. The only thing he's problem is he's 2 days late because he doesn't bother changing the date.
Well, that's not my issue. By the way, if Liam Gallagher even wanted to give me a
He's
pasting,
still going on about that.
he can turn up here at Talk Radio anytime he likes. Talk Radio Towers, mate. It's an open. I mean, we've got like Virgin in this building, right? We've got rock stars here all the time now.
Well, we just had
used to seeing
Tim
them.
downstairs up here, didn't
Just
we?
had Tim up here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's on in the morning.
He's on in the morning.
Filling in for what's her name? What's her name?
Edith Bowman.
Very good. See, you're on form.
Thank
you can
you.
remember her name twice today. That's brilliant. Hetty says this. Mike Parry, otherwise known as Papa Smurf, asks MG leading questions about life in a way a Pharisee would try to trick Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
MP
Really?
is the nasty Porky.
Oh, I don't know
That's
about
not very
that.
nice, is it?
No, it's not very nice at all.
Now, lots and lots more stuff coming in on your on your watch as well. Pete says this, Porky, Edward Whymper was English and the first to climb the Matterhorn.
Right, good.
Where's
I'm
your
glad to hear
climbing
that.
journals from?
I'm glad to hear that. I'm really glad to hear that. I love it when the British conquer something first. Because, of course, Edmund Hillary was the first to climb
Everest.
Of course.
What was the name of his Sherpa?
His Sherpa was named...
What was his name?
Sherpa.
Everybody knows. There's only one Sherpa that everybody knows, right? I mean, if you said to me, can you name a Sherpa?
Yes.
This would be the one Sherpa I could name. You can't name him.
Hang on. Let me just think seriously, because it happened on the same day that the Queen was the coronation of the Queen.
That's not going to help you with the Sherpa's name.
The Queen was the coronation of the Queen, Edmund Hillary, and Teng Sung.
Tenzing.
Tenzing.
Yeah, nearly right.
There, you see, got it.
Anyway, look at the time. You didn't get it. You got it wrong.
I got it.
Oliver Letwin's expected to lose his job. That should happen before this show's
yeah,
over.
you know, I saw that, and then I thought, what is his job?
Yeah, well, that's true, actually.
Yeah.
Good question.
Yeah, I don't
Michael
know.
Gove has been sacked, and Nicky Morgan's gone. It is they're kind of dragging it out, aren't they?
Well,
she's enjoying this.
No, they're not dragging it out. I've seen some comments saying that this is the most brutal, laceration of a previous cabinet by a new prime minister in the history of British politics.
Absolutely.
She's doing it extremely fast.
I've just found out that my son's sports day is actually today.
It's today.
I thought it was tomorrow.
Oh.
Yeah, so I can't go today either.
No, you can't go today.
Anyway, never mind.
Across the UK, online and on DAB.
The Two Mics on Talk Radio. We'll get you talking.
Talk Radio, we are the Two Mics. We're obviously covering all the changes that are being made even as we speak. People getting in and out of big Land Rovers and going up Downing Street and coming out either with a new job or with no job. Liz Truss has been appointed Justice Secretary. That's obviously taken over from Michael Gove, who appears to have no job at all. George Osborne appears to have no job either. And of course...
Mr Letwin has left
Letwin,
his job, but we can't remember what job he had.
Letwin is probably next.
Yeah.
But I don't have no idea what... We can't... Neither one of us can actually remember what he actually does.
No.
But never mind, we will get to that. The one good thing for a lot of these people, of course, is that once the decision is made, then the stress of their situation will disappear. Because, I mean, imagine if you're sitting...
Or it might pile up once you've got into your job.
Well, I mean, this is why we were talking about this earlier in the week, about how David Cameron
Yes.
seemed very kind of relaxed about the fact that he was no longer going to be Prime Minister.
That's
the reason
right.
for that probably is that when you're Prime Minister, you know, it's 24/7 scenario.
That's
isn't it?
right.
I mean, the
Yeah,
phone
of
could
course
ring
it
at
is.
any time
Of course it
saying
is.
there's been a terrorist attack or
Yep.
something terrible has happened
Yep.
or, you know, the pound has collapsed or anything.
That's right.
Whereas now, he can go off and have a very, very pleasant life and
Yes.
not have to worry about anything.
Yes, that's
and
right.
so we're going to talk now
Yeah.
to Professor Ian Robertson,
Excellent.
clinical psychologist and neuroscientist, right, who basically is going to tell us why sometimes stress is good for you, but at other times it's very nice to just not have any at all. Professor Robertson, a very good morning to you.
Good morning.
Thank you very much indeed for
Thank you.
joining us. I mean, it's quite a good day to be talking about stress because sometimes the stress of uncertainty, if you like, if you're awaiting some kind of appointment from the new Prime Minister or you're waiting the call that says you haven't got a job anymore, the stress of not knowing that could be awful, right?
Well, particularly very driven people who are, looking for these kind of jobs. I'm thinking of Michael Gove there.
Yeah.
how he's crashed and burned, and that's uncertainty is very, very can be very stressful.
Right.
Unpredictability, because that makes us feel out of control, and one of the biggest sources of stress is when we feel out of control of events.
Yeah. I mean, is there any such thing as I mean, I know that there are some who believe that some stress is good. I mean, there are different times of stress, right? So is uncertain or stress of uncertainty presumably is worse than, say, the stress of having a successful career?
Well, it really all boils down to your perception of stress.
Yeah.
The theme of my book, which is called The Stress Test, How Pressure Can Make You Stronger and Sharper, is that your mindset in response to stress has a huge determining effect on how it actually manifests itself in anxiety. So if you're waiting to see whether you've got a job or not, and you've got a pounding heart and your stomach's clenched and your mouth's dry and you're sitting there, the evidence is if you say to yourself, "I feel excited," as opposed to "I feel anxious," you will actually feel better, and you will perform better as well. Because the thing about the symptoms of anxiety, pounding heart and churning stomach, etc., are the same as those of excitement. And so you can do a little bit of mental jiu-jitsu and help change one into the other by how you describe them to yourself.
Professor, from your report, what I particularly liked was your conclusion that stressful situations and traumas can trigger incredible feats of creativity that allow people to achieve far more than they would do in happier times. Now,
surely you have to be creative in the first place.
Well, I'm sure you do, but I'm sure it comes in bursts. But your report came out just about the same time as I read a story about Vincent van Gogh hacking off most of his ear when we thought that previously he'd only hacked off the earlobe, and that was the start.
Why is there a connection here?
Because he was under incredible stress.
Was he?
He hacked his ear off, and after that painted some of his most brilliant and famous paintings. So is he a good example of what we're talking about?
Well, I wouldn't recommend it to art teachers around the country.
No, I agree, yeah.
Surely there must be some less strenuous kind of ways of changing your creativity.
Yeah. So, but generally speaking, even people who suffer terrible setbacks and injuries, many of them, not all of them by any means, report what's called post-traumatic growth. So rather than post-traumatic stress, in the short term, they may show stress, but in the longer term, a proportion of people actually look back to what's happened to them and say, actually, you know what, good things have come out of that.
Yeah.
And for instance, if you take people who have been made paralyzed from the waist down, and compare them to lottery winners a year after each event, their day-to-day pleasure in life is no different in average from those that won the lottery compared to these a year later.
Do you mean the pleasure that they extract from life in general?
Yeah. The small things in life, right. Just that, taking, and that's a lesson. But also more than that, some people to whom bad things can happen. Nietzsche, the famous German philosopher, said, "What doesn't kill me makes me stronger."
Yeah.
And the point of my book, The Stress Test, is to examine the limits of truth of that, because clearly it's not 100% true. Some terrible things happen to people that they don't get over. But the fact is that many, many domains, a bit of stress actually makes us feel better and perform better.
Well, it certainly makes us perform better. I believe in that sincerely. People say stress will give you stomach ulcers. Stress will make you hard.
But Mike, is it not partly because you're used to that, though? I mean, you've been a journalist all your life. You've had a stressful job all your life.
I have. But what I find most interesting about your report, Professor, is, for instance, the exercise where you squeeze your right hand, right? Squeezing your hand shut for 45 seconds, opening it for 15, then closing it for 5 seconds, switches on the left side of the brain to put you in a challenge frame of mind. So all your fears about the task you're just about to undertake are dulled, are they, by that exercise?
Well, what that does is put your brain into a more challenge frame of mind, kind of frame of mind where you say to yourself, "I'm excited by the prospect of getting this job or not getting it. This is a challenge versus, I'm threatened by it.
Sure.
And yes, this will work in the short term to lift your mood and lift your confidence. It's very slightly, and it will only be short acting. But I use it all the time, before some difficult presentation or interview.
Yeah. And the one I particularly like, Professor, is the deep breaths one, right? Now,
there's a lot you particularly like, isn't there?
but can I tell you, the way that it was always a giveaway for me, when I was sacking somebody, right, which is unfortunately you have to do as you go through life, I was always trying to get the upper hand in that situation because obviously you're giving somebody some very bad news and they don't like it and they're challenging you. And what always used to give it away, if I was particularly distressed about this, was my shortness of breath in trying to deliver the bad news. You know what I mean? What's the answer to that one?
That's such an interesting observation because it's often said that anxiety is simply excitement without breath. And this excitement, these symptoms of autonomic arousal with a beating heart, etc., is a kind of energy that we can harness. However, if we start breathing in the way you've just described, what that does is it changes the chemistry of our brain and actually makes us more anxious. So if we can, one very simple technique that everyone should use when they're feeling anxious is to just take the time to take a long, slow inward breath to the count of 5 and then out to the count of 6. If you just do that a few times...
That's a great one for Porky because it shuts him up for at least 10 seconds, which is it's quite a long time.
No, I've just done that and I feel better in this studio.
I feel better as well.
With this numpty
I feel better
sitting
as well.
alongside
I haven't heard your voice for a while. But, Professor, let me ask you this. I mean, is this something that is sort of available for everybody to take advantage of, as it were? I mean, are there some personalities that are more likely to do this better, to deal with things better?
Look, absolutely not. Everyone in the world can gain some control. I'm not saying you can eliminate people with chronic anxiety or stress. All I'm saying is everyone in the world can gain a little bit of control over their level of their emotional state by little tricks. And one of the most powerful ones is through your breathing, taking the time to take that breathing, because that is like taking the most natural pharmaceutical agent, the most natural pill in the world, because it changes your brain chemistry and helps pull you what my book calls the sweet spot. The sweet spot of optimal performance and where you're challenged but not too challenged, and where you can benefit from that stress to help you perform better. And
the power posture, finally, we've only got a couple of seconds left here, Professor. The power posture, it says you should try and make yourself into like some kind of superhero. Is it important that you have that in your mind, or is it you just puff your chest out?
No, you fake it till you make it. So I do this before I'm giving a nerve-wracking talk or interview. I walk tall, I walk proud,
right?
Hold my head up, and that actually changes the chemistry of your brain and changes your emotional state a little bit, and this helps give you that edge of confidence. And I would like. So the book is The Stress Test: How Pressure Can Make You Stronger and Sharper.
Available at all good bookshops.
Indeed it is. I think it's turning into a bit of a bestseller. I'm glad to say.
Oh, good. Well, we must get you back on again, Professor. Thank you very much again. Professor Ian Robertson, clinical psychologist and neuroscientist at Trinity College, Dublin.
That's right. Yeah.
Which we'll talk about coming up in the next hour, of course, as well. Oh, really?
Yeah.
How exciting for you. Did they know you were there at the time? Or?
Well, no. The Pope was in town at the time.
Oh, right, okay. Did he invite you?
No, but he blessed me.
Yeah, did he?
Yeah.
Oh, excellent.
Across the UK, online and on DAB.
It's a new frontier in broadcasting. The Two Mics on Talk Radio.
We'll get you talking.
Good afternoon, I'm Mike Graham, he's Mike Parry, you're listening to the Two Mics on Talk Radio. We're still going through the motions over at Downing Street where various different people are coming, various different people are going. Liz Truss has been appointed Justice Secretary in place of Michael Gove, he's out. George Osborne, of course, went out last night. Oliver Letwin, we're told, is on his way out. John Whittingdale is now walking up towards the front door of number 10. He's not accompanied by any women this time. This is the guy who has been in the news quite a lot recently for a couple of what you might call horizontal engagements.
You're talking about horizontal refreshment.
That's it,
What's
yeah.
that got to do with the appointment
Well,
of
I
a
just thought,
cabinet?
that's what I always think
Do
of
you
now
have
when
to
I
lower
see
the tone of everything?
when I see John Whittingdale. But anyway, we'll talk about that coming up a little bit later on. We're also
He
going to
had
go
a few
across.
exotic girlfriends, should we say?
Yeah, well, he had the dominatrix, didn't
The
he?
dominatrix,
He didn't know
yeah,
she
yeah.
was a dominatrix, unfortunately for him. But anyway, we'll get into that later.
Yeah.
We are Two Mics. This is Talk Radio, of course. And we're going over to Germany shortly as well.
The 21st century dream team of dialogue, debate, and discourse. The Two Mics on Talk Radio. We'll get you talking.
Oh, they're saying John Whittingdale stepped down as Culture Secretary.
Well, he's been sacked.
Well, you might say that. They haven't actually said that he's been sacked.
Well, hang on. George Osborne yesterday announced he was resigning
Yeah.
from the cabinet and from
Yeah.
government. Every newspaper this morning sacked.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, there is a nuance about that, isn't there? Because while yes, everybody understands that he was sacked, but he was given the opportunity to resign, which is slightly more honourable, I suppose. But I wonder whether Gove refused, because Gove, it has been said, was sacked.
Yeah, he was sacked. Yeah.
So that means that he perhaps decided not to step down and waited and said, no, if you want to get rid of me, you have to sack me.
Pretty stupid.
Which is what some people will do.
Pretty stupid
Have
thing
you ever
to do.
been given that choice?
Well, I was given the choice when I was sacked as news editor of the Express whether I wanted to take the payoff, which was in those days, about 75 grand, or go to America to cover the...
To be forgotten.
To be forgotten.
Yeah.
The US presidential election.
Right.
And
because you couldn't stand the idea of being out of work, you took the job.
Yeah, I did, but also there was an awful lot of money involved, a lot more than 75,000, because I was getting the dollar rate at 2.4.
Yeah, this is when you had your lavish apartment on Pennsylvania Avenue.
On Pennsylvania Avenue, the same street that the president lives on. I insisted on...
It's a very long street, though, isn't it?
It's a very long street. I insisted on having a huge allowance to live in America.
Yeah.
I also insisted on 6 return...
And they were so happy to get rid of you. They just said yes to everything.
That's right, 6 return business flights, you know. But
these were the Benelin years, weren't they?
Yeah, that's right. But from the minute I got to America, I was plotting my revenge. And within a year, I'd secured a very senior position on another newspaper, and I came back.
That didn't last
in
long,
a blaze
did it?
of glory. Well, it lasted as long as the editor lasted, actually.
Yeah.
And then he went, and then the editor came in, and it was all changed again.
You were swept out.
But these things happen. Now, listen, I want to talk to you about the golf.
It's the same apartment, by the way, just for people who don't know perhaps everything about your history, where you lived several floors up.
Yes.
But for some reason, in the middle of the night, would come home with 3 seats to the wind and order garden furniture and garden equipment, even though you didn't have a garden.
I tell you what
on
it was.
the shopping channel.
No, I tell you what it was. I mean, I didn't really do any work when I was in Washington because I didn't want to be there.
No, everybody knows that.
Yeah, and I resented the fact that somebody else was doing the job I was doing back in London.
Yeah.
I was, in fact...
it takes a while to get over that, but you get over it in the end.
Well, yeah, sometimes you do, yeah. And
still not over
so I
it,
was
are
pretty resentful. I decided just to spend all this lot of money they were paying me on a copious amount of drink in Washington's best cocktail bars, you know what I mean? So I did that quite
But that
successfully.
doesn't really explain the garden machinery.
Well, it does, because you've got to understand, it was a fantastic apartment. You came in as a concierge down there. They'd say, Mr. Parry, we have your dry cleaning back. It's in your apartment, sir, you know, and all that kind of stuff, you know. And that was great and all that. And then, but it was the first time I'd ever, because I'd been away from America for a few years, whereas you'd lived there until, I think, the year before.
Yeah, I lived there for 10 years nearly.
Exactly. So I went back and I switched on the telly, you know, going through all the channels. I thought, what is this? And it was actually QVC, wasn't it?
The first shopping channel.
The first ever shopping channel in the world. And I thought, this is incredible. So, and all you had to do was take out your credit card, ring this number, order the stuff automatically by pressing in a code, and then press in your credit card number.
Yeah.
So I thought I'd test it one night. Right. So it was about 2 a.m. And I'd been on the old... I remember, actually, I don't know why, I'd been on the tequila slammers.
No, dear.
Yeah, so...
that's never a good thing.
So I got home and opened a bottle of wine, settled down, and thought I'd watch something like, you know, John Wayne or something, and the shopping channel came up.
And Where Eagles Dare.
Yeah, and I thought, I must test this out to see if it works. So I tested out on garden shears.
You must have been a bit lonely at this point.
Well, no, I wasn't lonely. I was just, you know, I have an investigative mind, you know. So this guy came on, and he was pictured in a garden chopping away with his shears, and I thought, oh, I could do with a pair of those.
Yeah, well, even though you didn't have a garden.
Even though I didn't have a garden. But it got even better, because as I was ordering it, the voice, the automated voice at the end said, you know, for an extra $5, you can have 2 pairs of garden shears. So I ordered a second pair. So the second pair turned...
Did you not get a lawnmower as well at one point?
I did get a lawnmower, yeah, because I did that the following week. But I didn't think they'd send them. I was just trying to experiment. Yeah. And then, of course, I came in one night, and the concierge says, Mr. Parry, I said, we have a package for you. And I said, oh, yeah, what's that? Because I couldn't even remember having done this. I was so blatherated when I did it. And First time wasn't so bad because I could pretend it was a gift for somebody.
Yeah.
The second time, when the lawnmower arrived, it was rather...
17th floor apartment.
Yeah, it was rather more difficult to explain. Anyway, talking about lawnmowers, what do you think of the state of the course that the Open's been played on?
Well, I mean, I can
Which
tell
is your
that,
local course, isn't
well,
it?
it's certainly a course I've played on. It's just south of Glasgow. I mean, it's a beautiful spot, Troon. And the thing is, at the moment, it looks like the weather is very, very nice. And whenever the weather is nice on any of these courses, the players just kill it because basically, if the conditions are fine, they're quite short, a lot of these courses. I mean, they're tricky, but as far as, what they're used to
What do you mean the players kill it?
The players do very well on it.
Oh, I see, yeah. Okay.
Because basically, and if it's not windy and it's not raining in Scotland, some of the courses play quite easily, is what I'm going to say.
I know what you mean.
I mean, obviously you have to be as good as these guys are to
Sure.
score under par, but there'll be a lot of under par scores, I think, today.
Oh, I think there will be. Have you ever covered an Open? Or been to one?
I went to one of the ones at Muirfield.
Right.
The year it was it was terribly wet.
Yeah, I remember.
If you remember.
Yeah, I do, yeah.
This would have been, it was just after I'd gone up to Scotland, so it might have even been 2002.
I've done about 3 or 4 where we broadcast the breakfast show actually from the course in the box overlooking the 18th, right? Fantastic.
What, you mean
location.
right up on the top of the crane?
Right at the top of the crane,
I'm not sure I'd like to be that high
Well,
up.
I tell you what happened.
Does it not make you a bit sort of squeamish?
It does a little bit, just don't look out the window. But one year, what happened was...
Well, hang on, you're on the top of a crane.
No, sorry. We're literally on a box on top of the scaffolding.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
You know,
so not that high then. No, I thought you meant up on top of the massive crane.
No, sorry, no, not on a cherry picker or anything. No. But it's still very high. And the point is that we were called back one afternoon to do something else for another show.
Yeah.
Been in the...
So you've done it again, haven't you?
What?
You said to me, have you ever been to an Open? And I went, yes, I think I went to one Muirfield.
Yeah.
Oh, great. Anyway, so here's another story about one of the ones that I covered.
No.
I mean, it's ridiculous.
No. The champagne
My
tent...
story about the Open is worth telling.
Of course it is, and we've heard it, and it's a very good story. Thank you. Have you finished it?
Well, every single one of the stories you've ever told has been told before.
No, this one hasn't.
The only difference between your stories and mine is that if I retell them, it's the same story.
No.
If you retell your stories, you've added in a few more bits to try and make it more interesting.
No, you don't understand.
Billy Liar. Never was a more apt phrase.
We'd been in the Bollinger tent, right? Been in the Bollinger tent all afternoon.
You were working.
We'd done the breakfast show, finished at 10.
Oh,
decided to go
so you weren't working anymore?
Well, we didn't think we were, but then at 2 o'clock we were called back to do a show in the afternoon.
Really?
And the problem was
that
getting up those scaffolding steps at the back of the stand to get to our box.
Is this you and Mr. Brazil?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
And I got halfway up and then I fell off. And I fell over.
Didn't he catch you?
Well,
or was he ahead of you?
He tried to grab me as I went over the side, right? But it was so confusing.
I must have been very impressed at the Royal and Ancient.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was so confusing.
Where was this at? Was it St
this one was at Royal Lytham St Helens in Lancashire. But it was so confusing. When you're bladderated and you're seeing double, it's very difficult.
How could you go on the radio in that condition?
Well, we have to manage it, but it's very difficult to work out on a scaffolding set of stairs. You understand what I mean? Which bits of scaffolding are holding what up, and where the planks are, and all that
it's
kind
obvious
of stuff.
where the planks are. The planks are walking up the stairs.
Yeah. And I just took a wrong turn and whoosh went over. And unfortunately, Al did grab me and he broke my fall, but I still landed on a load of bins, fortunately.
Really?
Like plastic wheelie bins and that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Were you not embarrassed?
Well, slightly, but then again, I was feeling, confident and free of stress at the time.
That's always your excuse, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, a couple more remarks on your watch. Tommy Boy says, that is a shocker, Mike. Here's one from somebody called Aidan who says, did that come from a bubblegum machine?
No, it didn't, actually. No.
Yes, well, anyway, coming up, we're going to talk about Boris Johnson, because he, of course, has been made Foreign Secretary, one of the top jobs in government.
Yeah.
We think it might be a sort of act of revenge by Theresa May to basically put Boris in a job that he can't possibly do well at, and will probably not have for very long because of the number of blunders that he's made. We're going to go over to Germany shortly and find out what the view of him is in Europe.
Across the UK, online and on DAB.
The Two Mics on Talk Radio. We'll get you talking.
This is Talk Radio. We are the Two Mics, and of course we're keeping you across all of the political machinations going on currently in Downing Street. Theresa May is basically forming her cabinet. She seems to be axing all the old and bringing in a whole lot of new, basically. Most of the people that were involved in high positions in the Cameron cabinet appear to have gone, including Michael Gove, including, of course, Mr. George Osborne as well. The one sort of survivor, I suppose you might say, of the previous regime, in a way, is Boris Johnson, who's kind of bounced back in a way that nobody really expected him to do. do. But as we were saying earlier, it might be Theresa May's revenge by saying to him, as you pointed out, well, you got us into this mess, Boris, and you can't just walk away and leave us to sort it out.
Go and sort it out.
So you be the Foreign Secretary and go around the world and make up for all of the gaps that you've said and all the things that you've just said about different people.
I mean, to link directly to that, there was a claim when Mr Cameron, the Prime Minister, decided to quit, that he said to one of his aides, of course I'm going to quit. Do you think I'm going to spend the next 6 months dealing with this mess that's been created by the Brexiteers?
And I mean,
I'm getting out.
And one of the things that you can read in all the papers this morning is all of the various things that Boris Johnson has said about various politicians around the world.
Exactly.
From Arnold Schwarzenegger to the President of Turkey.
Indeed.
We're going to talk now to Elizabeth Schumacher from Deutsche Welle, which is the sort of German equivalent, I'm told, of the World Service. Because Frank-Walter Steinmeier, or Steinmeier, if you like, who's the Foreign Secretary of Germany, came out this morning and called Boris Johnson an irresponsible politician.
Indeed.
So it's not a very good start,
is it?
Elizabeth, thank you very much for joining us. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Happy to be here.
Thank you very much. So, I mean, Boris Johnson is a pretty unlikely diplomat, is he not? What's been, aside from what we've heard from Frank-Walter Steinmeier, what's been the general reaction in Germany to the idea that the man who wanted to take Britain out of the European Union is now going to be travelling around having to meet them all?
Well, it was interesting. As I turned on the breakfast TV this morning, the TV presenters couldn't help but laugh. They didn't even try to stifle their laughter. And the very famous newspaper, the Süddeutsche Zeitung's headline said, well, we all knew the Brits were famous for their humour.
Well, you know, you see, that distresses us a little bit because we've always believed that Britain as a country and, you know, the history and the heritage of our country, we did actually have a place at the top table around the world when it came to international affairs. Now, if our Foreign Secretary is now a figure of fun in Germany, and I'm sure in Germany you've seen plenty of pictures of Boris in compromising situations, hanging from a zip wire and all that kind of stuff. Does that mean that then the authority that Britain wants to exercise with European countries, even though we are pulling out, will be very badly diminished because he is our Foreign Secretary?
I think to a certain extent, at least in the initial aftermath, because Britain has always had this reputation in Germany as being a country of, you know, sort of refinement and politeness, especially politically. So I think another reaction has just been sort of bafflement and maybe a little bit of, to use a German word, Schadenfreude, like, oh, you see, we told you should stay in the EU, and this is what happened. And it sort of makes Germany look a little less weak than they did in the aftermath of the Brexit.
I mean, now that, of course, 3 weeks or so has passed since the actual referendum result, I mean, we've gone through, in this country, quite a few different emotions, I suppose. You know, a lot of the people who wanted to remain in the European Union were very angry at first. You know, that's kind of calmed down slightly. There is now a petition which has been activated by Parliament where they're going to debate the possibility of having a second referendum, which won't mean anything. No. But what's the sort of mood settling down into in Germany? Is it a case of what's done is done, let's try and make it take as long as possible, or let's try and do it as quickly as possible?
Exactly. It's sort of like, you said you wanted to leave, so leave. I mean, Angela Merkel is a very serious politician who says what she means, and she didn't even comment on Boris Johnson. All she said was, I look forward to working with Theresa May. The CDU, her party, has called Johnson, they said, no more lying, no more dreaming. You can't be part of the free trade deal. You sit out, get out as quickly as possible.
That's I'm sorry.
Berlin.
Yes. I'm sorry. That's very interesting, Elizabeth. And the other issue is this: has it triggered any movement within Germany for people there to say, "Hang on, if the British people have now decided they're better off outside of Europe, maybe we should think about doing the same"?
Not in the great majority. I think Germans and Germany is one of the great champions of the European project, and that is still the major mood. However, right-wing populists like the AfD, the Alternative for Germany, which is a little bit like UKIP, has really capitalized on this and said, look, they did it. We're the next big economic powerhouse in Europe. We need to do the same.
Yeah, okay.
And what about the actual, because a lot of the conversations here now are revolving around some of those people from Europe who live in this country and who have lived here for many years. Some may be from Germany. I mean, I saw, for example, the Belgian ambassador on television the other day saying that they're having an awful lot of people applying for Belgian passports now because they still want to have a passport that allows them access to the single market just as an individual. I mean, are you seeing that in Germany? Or a lot of people who perhaps have lived in England for a while, or Britain, now looking at moving back?
Yes, actually, quite a few. I know a lot of people who study there, who work there as journalists, who are worried about their status, who've said, fine, if you don't want me. That was sort of the initial mood, I think, right after the vote happened. Like, if you don't want me, fine, then I'll go.
OK. Elizabeth, it's all very well for the German Foreign Minister to describe Boris Johnson as an irresponsible politician. What is the position, please, regarding the German government in terms of when does Ms Merkel have to go to the people on a democratic vote, bearing in mind that the reports we have in this country are that, a lot of German people are quite upset at the numbers of immigrants that have come into the country because Mrs Merkel's allowed them to.
Well, Merkel she's very good at being all things to all people. It's like that Oscar Wilde quote, she talks more and says less than anybody I've ever met. She's very good at convincing people that whatever she wants is what's best for Germany. Mm-hmm. So when people are upset about the numbers of immigrants coming in, she says, okay, well, look, we've declared all these new states in the Balkans as safe states, so we're really only going to take in Syrians and Afghans. Mm-hmm. And when Britain leaves the EU, she's very good at saying, like, oh, no, but look at all the bad things that are happening in Britain, so we shouldn't leave the EU because, we're stronger this way.
Oh, sorry. When is the next?
That's how she handles it.
When is the next general election in Germany, please?
It is next. It's next fall.
And is she in danger of any serious opposition or any serious competition for her post?
It's hard to say. She is very good at. She's had a number of minor scandals over the past couple of months, but she is very good at recovering. Yeah. And Germans like consistency, and they say she steered us through the financial crisis. They call her Mutti, which means mommy. Yeah. I think right now, it maybe looks bad that Britain voted to leave the EU, and it looked bad initially at how she handled the migration crisis, but she has a whole year to recover from that.
I see.
And that's one of her strong suits.
Right. Okay.
Interesting stuff.
Great.
Well, I'm sure we'll talk to you again, Elizabeth.
Indeed,
thank you so much
Elizabeth, thank you very much
taking the
indeed.
time to talk to us. Elizabeth Schumacher there, who's with Deutsche Welle, which is the sort of the German broadcast network. Yeah. Interestingly enough, it looks as though Patrick McLaughlin has been made party chairman.
Yes.
Also, more interestingly, because this is a
Do you know much about him?
Not an awful lot.
So why is that so interesting?
Well, it's interesting because it's a very big job,
right?
And it's it's being done now by somebody who you would say outside of the party
do you know what?
is relatively unknown.
I thought that was the job she would give to Boris Johnson because the job of party chairman is to make people feel good.
That would be one he could do.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why we think she's dropped him in it by giving him a job he can't do.
Yeah.
And Gavin Williamson, who was one of the senior aides to David Cameron, has been given the job of chief whip, which is also quite significant because he's one of the few Cameronites that has sort of survived. We're still trying to work out what it is that Oliver Letwin does, but whatever it is that he does do, he won't be doing it for much longer.
Now, I see Stephen Crabb coming out of Downing Street.
Yes.
Now, there's been allegations that he's maybe been a little bit sort of
unwise,
careless with a few text messages and that sort of thing.
Yes, I've heard that, yeah. That's a bit
So,
unfortunate for him, isn't it?
So when these guys go into Downing Street at the moment, you don't know whether they're going in to be sacked
they don't
or
know.
Promoted.
Exactly.
They just really don't know.
I mean, it's literally like there's a trap door. And then there's another door to the right.
That's right.
And when they walk in, they don't know whether the trap door's going to open or whether they're going to walk into to where the fruit bowl is.
Like that lift in The Spy Who Loved Me, right?
What?
When you got in the lift in The Spy Who Loved Me and the floor suddenly went,
this is another
boosh,
clue.
And you were in the shark
This is
pool.
another clue to your life as a child. As an overgrown 10-year-old. You think the world operates like a James Bond film.
Well, a lot of it does.
Unbelievable.
Believe me.
The 21st century dream team of dialogue, debate and discourse. The Two Mics on Talk Radio. We'll get you talking.
This is Talk Radio. We are the Two Mics. We've got to do listography before the end of the show. We've only got about half an hour left. So
we've got a few options.
We have got some options, but
okay.
I'll tell you what we'll do. We've got to talk to a very important man right now called Jamie Stiles, who's taking a boat across the Atlantic. It's not a very.
I don't think he's actually taking himself.
Hang on.
Explain.
Hang on. He's taking a boat across the Atlantic. You got no sort of panache for the drop intros we used to say. Have you?
I have. Don't worry.
So you just want to tell it all straight.
No.
My point about his boat that he's taking across the Atlantic is it's not like every other boat. Which is what I'm about to explain.
I'm putting a question mark in our millions of listeners' minds.
No, you're not. You're completely ruining it.
No,
as usual.
Just get on with it.
Anyway, we'll talk to Jamie in a minute. So we will do listography after that. So please, if you wish to, send us a couple of suggestions. Hashtag listography at the Two Mics on Twitter. Also, I just wanted to say this to you about what Boris Johnson has said in the past about several other personalities in politics, shall we say. Apparently, he was criticised when he went over to speak with Arnold Schwarzenegger at a dinner. And he said this about Schwarzenegger. He said, "My speaking style was criticised by no less an authority than Arnold Schwarzenegger. It was a low moment, my friends, to have my rhetorical skills denounced by a monosyllabic Austrian cyborg."
Oh, dear. It's a bit harsh, isn't it?
Well, I mean, I suppose you could say he did play a cyborg, but I mean, nevertheless, it's not the sort of thing you expect from a diplomat, is it?
And he can be quite monosyllabic, can't he, Arnold?
Well, don't make it worse.
You know what I mean?
Don't make it worse.
Well, he can be.
I mean, you might as well make you the foreign secretary.
Yeah, well, okay.
You'd be just as useless at it as Johnson will be.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's talk to Jamie Stiles, because he is, of course, a chemistry master from Epsom College in Surrey.
Very fine
not
school.
a million miles away from your abode, I presume, in Stockbroker Belt. Jamie, a very good morning, good afternoon to you, I should say. How are you?
Afternoon, Mike. I'm fine, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, very well indeed. Now, you're taking a boat across the Atlantic, as I said, but it's not actually a life-size boat, if you like. It's a model boat, which is quite a remarkable endeavour. Tell us about it.
No, it's a project where we ran at school. It's taken about a year to come to to creation, to launch, but it's taking part in the Microtransat Challenge, which is a competition that was started in 2005 to promote autonomous boats sailing across the Atlantic. So there's nobody on it or anything like that. It's got some software on board. It's got some solar panels. And we launched it from HMS Pursuer in the English Channel. And the idea was it would sail itself over towards Daytona Beach in America.
Okay.
How big is this boat, please, Jamie?
It's 1.8 metres long, so it's
like
a fair
6
size,
feet.
but
6 feet.
It's a model boat, really.
Yeah, but
I mean, that's amazing, isn't it? Because it's like
it's
the kind of boat
amazing.
that you would see perhaps on the Serpentine, and somebody standing on the side with a remote control. Is that basically? Is it sort of I don't want to say a jumped up version of that, but is that what it is?
It is. It was custom made by us, but it's essentially a jumped up version of a model boat.
And can you get in touch with this boat during its epic 3,000-mile journey to the other side?
You can. It's
well, you can't. You're not just going to hope that it gets there, are you?
No. I'm saying, can you contact it and start taking data from it as if it was a moon probe or something like that?
The rules of the competition say we can't send data to it, but it does send data to us. For the first week, it was sending data every hour, so it sends its latitude, its longitude, its battery voltages, and things like that.
Yeah.
So the kids wrote some software that sends data via a satellite back to our computers at school.
What, your own pupils at school, aged, 16, 17, are writing software for this project?
Well, frustratingly, they're really, really good at it. And
this is going to be completely baffling. Jamie, this will completely baffle my broadcasting co-host here, Mr. Parry, who is I call him the Luddite's Luddite. He can just about work a mobile phone, and he's way too old to learn anything else now.
But anyway, they've done it, have they?
They have.
Okay, now, go on, please. Go on.
Yeah, the boat was launched in the channel, and I think to cross the channel you need three things. You need really good software, which I think we had. Needed a really good design boat, which I think we had, and you need a lot of luck. Yeah. But it seems from the satellite tracking, our luck ran out about 3 hours after launch.
Oh, really? What, did it get hit by something in the channel?
Well, it didn't so much get hit, but it was travelling. It suddenly started travelling against the tide at an impossible speed, which implies somebody's picked it up to have a look at it. And when it went back in the water, the satellite tracking continued, but it never got back on its westerly track towards America. So
have you lost the boat now?
The boat is in the channel. We tracked it for another 4 days. And then we've lost track of it at the moment. Yeah.
I'm sorry for laughing, Joey.
No, we didn't have
no idea.
We
had no idea. We thought you were going to say. I was going to say to you, where is it now? Sort of somewhere between.
How long will it take
the
to get to America?
Nearing Daytona. You can start seeing it with a telescope. So you've basically lost the boat.
This was the really interesting thing about this project. The fact, loads of universities have tried. There've been now 13 attempts and no one's been successful. It's a really, really difficult thing to do.
Yeah.
And why this project was a little bit different is, we knew that there was a very, very large chance we wouldn't be successful. And, that was quite unique and brought up some interesting situations during the building of the boat.
Indeed.
Yeah. So at the moment...
so what do you think? What do you think actually happened to it then?
Yeah.
I think after 3 hours, it was picked up by a pleasure craft to have a look at it.
Oh, you mean somebody took it out of the water?
Yeah, one of the most fragile things is the rudder, and I reckon that probably got damaged when it went back in, maybe unintentionally.
Yeah, Jamie, do you mind me giving you the suggestion that you could have put a sign on the boat saying, please don't lift this boat out of the water?
Oh,
that's
it
clever.
Had that in 3 different languages.
Oh, it did, I see.
I think curiosity gets the better of people sometimes.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it wasn't intentional, but...
Okay.
It does appear that it got picked up.
Now, let me ask you this, please, because if this boat had got into the Atlantic, right, and it's about 6 feet long. Now, I don't want to dwell on the past, but my father was in the Royal Navy during the Second World War. Now, he tells me that on a Royal Navy battleship crossing the Atlantic, waves 60 foot high would sometimes break across the bow. How would your little boat have possibly survived sea conditions like that?
Well, this was one of the joys of it, trying to make a boat that could withstand, a real bashing. And we had a boat that you could throw against the wall, you could drop things on it, and it didn't break.
Yeah.
So, that was the fun, the engineering part of how are we going to make this, this boat strong enough that it can survive that.
Yeah.
One benefit is because it's small, it would ride over the waves rather than sort of try and break through them.
Yeah.
So that is why it hasn't been done yet.
Okay, and can I suggest...
do you mind if I just ask
No,
a
please
question?
do, yeah.
I'm terribly sorry to interrupt this monologue that you've been on
go on.
for the last 2.5 hours. What I was going to ask you, Jamie, was there a lot of cost involved in it? I mean, how much money have you lost, technically, by now losing the boat?
The actual components on the boat was about £300.
Oh, okay.
The whole project had a budget of about £800, so it was a lot less than some of the universities who have tried.
Yeah.
And we got special grant for it and things like that as a special project.
Okay, and could I just say, Jamie, I mean, if I was on a pleasure cruise and I saw this boat, my curiosity would be, stirred, and I'd want to sort of look at it. But can't you go to the west coast of Ireland and launch it from there, where there aren't pleasure craft and where it would get out into the Atlantic immediately without going past sort of Cornwall and Devon and all that kind of stuff?
Well, I think we'll run the thing again, and the project again, and we'll reflect on the launch point. But we had the Royal Navy help us with the launch.
Really?
And so there were constraints within where we could launch it from.
Right.
And,
well, he said at the beginning you launched it from a naval vessel.
Yeah, sure, yeah. But, I mean, for them to get involved in a project like that, I think it's magnificent.
I think, the really interested STEM, science, technology, engineering and mathematics is really... coming through education. Epsom will be teaching it as a core curriculum subject next year.
Yeah.
And they've got a massive interest in engineering, and they just heard about the project, loved it, and said, can we help? And one of the biggest difficulties is getting it away from the shore.
Of course.
And so by having the Royal Navy on board, we could launch it out at sea rather than from a beach, where it's likely to just come back in.
And was it powered purely by sails?
It is. There are 2 competitions that run. One is a powered version,
right,
and one is a sail version, and we'd entered the sail version.
How would the powered version boat retain power for 3,000 miles? Would that be totally solar power, or...?
The people who have tried have gone for solar power. The beauty of this is that it's up to the young engineers or the older engineers to come up with their own method to be, use their creativity to come up with a way. But solar panel seems to be the popular option.
Yeah, okay.
Well,
fine.
It's a sad story, I'm afraid,
Yeah,
Jamie.
it is very sad that we've lost it.
I'm
yeah.
hoping you'll be able to get one back in the water soon. If by any chance anyone finds it, where should we tell them to send it back to?
Well, it's got all the contact details on the boat.
Okay.
We would love to find it, because to try again, we need to know what went wrong, whether it was human interference or something broke. Yeah. So, we really need to learn from the experience and put it into our next attempt.
Right.
So if anybody finds it, just contact Epsom College, or there are plaques on the boat telling you phone numbers.
Is there any reason, or is there any rule? I mean, since Porky's had a couple of ideas I've got one for you. Is there any reason why you couldn't put something like a, like a Find My iPhone type chip in it or something, so that you could actually see where it is?
Well, in theory, that's what it's got via satellite. It doesn't need the mobile network. So in theory, that's what we can do.
Right.
And we tested the tracker we sent it to 35,000 metres, in a high-altitude balloon as part of a different project just to test whether the tracker could withstand it. And
Really?
the tracker's never failed.
Right.
I'm thinking
Mysterious.
something hit the boat.
Yeah.
It may have sunk.
Maybe it's been eaten by one of those stealth boats, like the ones in the James Bond films.
I doubt it, but it could have been smashed up, couldn't it? It could have been propelled by a tanker or something like that, couldn't it?
It could.
Yeah.
If the boat floods, the students designed it to float, even if it was flooded with water.
Yeah.
So hopefully it's bobbing around on the surface. It will wash ashore somewhere between Portland and Brighton, and someone will get in touch.
Well, we hope
can
so.
learn from it.
We hope so.
Brilliant stuff. Well, Jamie, listen.
Good luck for a brilliant project.
Fine endeavour, and good luck with the next one.
Yeah.
Thank you very much indeed, Jamie Stiles there from
See,
Epsom College. You're completely baffled by this, aren't you?
No, I'm not.
I can tell.
No, I'm
you
not.
have no idea how that boat works.
No, I have
no idea.
I just think it's a magnificently ambitious project.
Why didn't you tell me they'd lost the boat? You wanted to get this guy on.
No, I didn't know.
It's totally embarrassing. We're interviewing a guy about this fantastic endeavour and his voyage, and he tells us he's lost the boat.
The last information
it's
I
a shocking thing.
Because I come from that part of the world, Stockbroker Belt, Surrey.
Well, when was the last time you checked the story?
This. No, I heard about this, and all I knew was that it was going off sometime soon.
Yeah.
But it's already
not
gone
only
off. And it's
off,
got lost.
It went off days ago, and now they don't know where it is.
That's where it is. It's got lost, which is a terrible shame. But it emphasises again, in my view.
Yeah.
Just what sort of people we produce at English public schools. You see what I mean? I don't think
a load of old rubbish.
I don't think this would have been attempted by the boys of Overley Secondary Modern School in Chester, where I grew up.
Yeah, they would.
Yeah,
they would. They just don't have the facilities.
Well,
now, before we go anywhere else, we've got to decide on listography, right? So
Indeed.
I've got a few suggestions here for you. Top journalistic scoops from Tom. I think we've sort of done that, haven't we?
Yeah, we have. Yeah.
3 things that are better now your working days. One that says 3 biggest lies you uncovered in the shady journalism days.
Yeah.
3 ways to kill and bury Porky.
That's a bit harsh.
I don't think we can do that one.
No.
How about 3 tales from Vegas? 3 favourite chocolate bars from any time.
I'll do 3 tales from Vegas. Have you been to Vegas a lot?
Yeah, I've been to Vegas. No, not many times.
No, okay. You got 3 tales from Vegas?
I could probably find 3 tales from Vegas.
Yeah, I can find 3 tales from Vegas.
We'll do 3 tales from Vegas then coming up next on Talk Radio. One of my favourite Las Vegas stories is that whenever you fly into the Las Vegas airport, you come, and it literally is like a scene from Casino.
It is.
Where they get a lot of bodies buried in the desert out there, and you just think of all these places in the desert where there probably are a load of bodies buried.
Yeah.
And suddenly there's this just sort of mammoth, sort of lit up city
in
the middle of nowhere.
Absolutely.
And is it McCarran Airport? I think it's called something like that. International airport. It's got a name anyway.
Yeah, it does, yeah.
And I was leaving there one day, and it was a very big airport, but very quiet a lot of the time. There's hardly anybody around. And I walked into the sort of this part of where all the sort of seating is, and you're just waiting for your flight.
Yes.
And I went to this quite deserted part because I didn't really fancy being too near anyone. I was working.
Yeah.
And I sat down, and I looked across to the seat opposite me, which was about 12 feet away.
Yeah.
And it was James Brown.
James Brown, the mad rock star.
The Godfather of Soul.
Godfather of Soul, yeah.
He was sitting there with the biggest sunglasses on I'd ever seen.
Right.
I mean, if he had been, if his head was like the size of a fly, his eyes were like, he had like fly-size sunglasses. Do you know what I mean? I'm not describing that very well.
No, I know what you mean, yeah.
It's just amazing. And then his wife came into view, who at the time...
Is he the one that he used to beat up on a regular basis?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. She looked as if she was, slightly sort of cowed by him.
Yes,
and he started having a huge row
with
her.
Yeah.
And he was saying the most awful things to her.
Really?
And I was just sitting there going,
bad language?
Yeah. But not just bad language, but I mean, some really horrible stuff.
You mother! Yeah.
Really, I mean, I can't even begin to tell you.
Right, yeah.
But it was amazing. And I was just sitting, he didn't seem to care that I was I was like in the front row of his show, watching this for about 20 minutes.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And I was just sitting there with my arms folded. I reckon I got some popcorn out. Just went, this is great entertainment.
Great entertainment.
Wait for my plane.
Well, it's funny that because my first story about Las Vegas does not include me being there.
Right.
But it's a great story. Do you remember about?
I'm not sure if that qualifies.
No, it does. It does because I know exactly what they're talking about, right? Do you remember about 4 or 5 years ago, I got approached by a boxing promoter who said that Mike Tyson was ready to write his life story.
Oh, yeah.
And, would I be prepared to talk to people about it,
What do you mean? Would you write the book?
Yes, exactly. And
has he gone mad?
No, I swear to you, and go out to Las Vegas, right?
Right, so you could have actually written Mike Tyson's autobiography.
Could have written Mike Tyson's autobiography.
Which would have been unlike the one you wrote about Wayne Rooney, where you didn't actually talk to him at all.
No.
You wrote an entire book about him,
Yeah.
Which didn't actually mention him until about halfway through the book, because the first part of the book's all about you.
But that wasn't a biography. That was a...
It was a hagiography.
No, it wasn't. It was a book about Wayne Rooney. It was a very informative book about Wayne Rooney and how wealthy he was and all that kind of stuff.
You can buy it for a penny on Amazon now.
Well, it's around. Anyway, so I got to Warrington, where this promoter's based.
Right.
And one of Mike Tyson's people are there.
Right.
Because the reason the guy...
Was this when he was over fighting in Scotland or whatever it was?
He wasn't fighting, he was actually doing tours.
Oh, doing his tour, yeah.
Yeah,
because they were talking about not letting him in the country, weren't they?
Exactly, because of his rape conviction, all that kind of stuff. But this guy was hiring halls, and people were turning up in their thousands to listen to Mike Tyson stories and all that. Well, Mike Tyson was somewhere else. But anyway, the guy from Mike Tyson's camp said, yeah, he got so many great stories to tell, And I said, yeah.
Well, excuse me, just for a second.
Yes.
Jeremy Hunt is apparently now being chased around Whitehall by a load of photographers. Why?
Because he remains health secretary.
Yeah, but so what? I mean, he's walking down the street. They're literally falling over each other to try and get pictures of him. Nothing's happened.
It's like that.
Nothing's happened.
It's like that Eric Cantona advert, and the farmer and all that. Yeah,
unbelievable. Anyway, sorry, I interrupted you.
Yeah, no, not at all.
Go on.
And I said, what's the best story? He says, it's when Mike, had the row with Don King.
Where's this guy from?
This guy's from America.
Right. I thought maybe he was from Dunstable or somewhere.
That's right, Don King. And I said, what happened? He said, Don King said, hey, Mike, come with me. I want to discuss a new contract with you. And they go down, they get in the car. He says, and Don King and Mike are in the back, but in the front there's a driver and a guy with a big bulge in his suit pocket, Right. He says, and they start heading out.
Pleased to see him.
He said they start heading out into the desert. And Mike decides that they're going to kill him. Don King's going to kill him and bury him in the desert. And I said, well, how did he stop it? He said, Mike leaned back, he raised his right foot, and he pushed his right leg through the back of the seat in front of him and pushed the man through the windscreen, which caused the driver to stop suddenly. Mike got out and ran away. So,
has this story ever been told?
Well, I don't
know.
Did
the book ever come out?
No, well,
not by you, but by somebody else.
I think somebody wrote a Mike Tyson book about 5 years later. Yeah. But the reason it didn't come out was I went to see 3 publishers in London.
Yeah.
And Tyson wouldn't do it for less than a $5 million upfront payment.
Oh, really?
And they all said it just won't sell that many. Yeah. Even their New York offices said Mike Tyson does not have that sort of affectionate relationship with the American people.
Of course, if you'd written it, it would have been probably a massive seller because you would have made half of it up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like you did with all the other books.
They're very ridiculous. Right, go on.
Like the famous intro of the Alan Brazil, what is it? An awful lot more bubbly in Brazil.
Yes.
The ski resort of Maribel.
Yes.
And the sky was inky black.
Yes.
And the snow was as white as a tin of.
Gillett.
I mean, unbelievably bad writing. That.
Well, that's what Al said to me.
No,
it's not my fault. Anyway, go on.
You made that up. Well, my second story is about going to see. I went to see Barry McGuigan losing his title fight to a guy called Cruz. I think his name was.
Okay.
He was a Mexican anyway.
Okay.
And I'd never seen a fight in Las Vegas before. I'd only ever seen them sort of in New Jersey, New York, that kind of thing. Yeah. And what I didn't realise was that they have them, as probably anybody will now tell you who knows about these things. They have them outside in a car park.
Right.
And it was in the car park of Caesar's Palace.
Yes.
And it was my first trip to Las Vegas.
Right.
And I just remember thinking, this place is amazing because you get on a sort of electronic
You do,
walkway which led you into the Caesar's Palace, right?
And you get a talkathon.
And a talkathon as you're going in.
This
history
great
of the place, and they're blowing cold air on
That's
you
right.
and everything else. But what I did notice is that when you're coming out, when you've lost all your money in the casino, you have to walk all the way back.
That's right, you
because
do,
there's no electronic walkway.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was out in the parking lot, and it was 6 o'clock at night, this fight.
Yes.
But it was about 125, 130 degrees
Right.
Fahrenheit.
Yeah.
Just in the... And everyone said at the time, Barry McGuigan's going to be great, he's going to be able to retain his... But other people said, well, actually, he's never really fought in this kind of heat before, right? And I was sitting about 4 rows back in the press seats. And it's the first time I've been that close to a real fight.
Yes.
And on the undercard of the fight was Roberto Duran. Hands of Stone. I remember being completely horrified because, and it kind of put me off going to boxing after that because at one point or other, Roberto Duran's gum shield came out.
Right.
And this guy whacked him.
Yeah.
And this kind of just, what can only be described as a shower
of
blood and phlegm and all sorts of other horrible things just went all over the front 3 rows.
I know, it's horrible.
Right in front of me.
Yeah, I know.
It just about missed my desk as I was sitting there and landed just before mine.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I was just like, oh, my God.
No, it's horrible.
That's the worst thing I've ever seen.
It's
the
horrible.
guy in front of me, his entire face was covered in it.
Oh, don't forget it, yeah.
Oh, it was horrible.
First time I went to Las Vegas, right, I went there as a tourist with my mate, and we were on the south coast. We were on the west coast, San Diego, Los Angeles, Las Vegas. And we went to the $2 tables. Literally stayed there all night. Right. And you know, as long as you're gambling at least $10 an hour, all the drink is free.
All the drink is free. So, you can still smoke as well.
Still smoke.
The other thing about the place, no clocks. You have no idea what time it is.
And pump oxygen in. But I every time I said, cocktail, please, the cocktail waitress would say again and again. I've famous.
I've never seen anything like you in Brazil.
No, and I'll tell you a third one very quickly, right? It was when we went to do...
We haven't got time.
We have, because...
John Holmes is here.
Yeah, but
it's the end of the show.
John's enjoying this, don't worry.
Well, never mind whether he's enjoying it. We're done.